I'm looking at this here brain. What do you think?
Adam Curry, John C. Dvorak.
It's Sunday, October 15, 2017. This is your award-winning Gitmo Nation Media Assassination episode 973.
This is No Agenda.
27% day trader, 33% podcaster, and 100% broadcasting from the future. Live from downtown Austin, Tejas, the capital of the Drone Star State, in the Cludio in the morning, everybody. I'm Adam Curry.
And from northern Silicon Valley, where I'm pitching on fumes, I'm John C. Dvorak.
It's Crackpot and Buzzkill in the morning.
Is the phrase from the Shays not "I'm running on fumes"?
Well, this was a reference to Verlander, who they said was pitching on fumes.
Who's Verlander? Who's
games? Who's Verlander?
oh, wait a minute. Sports reference. Oh, okay. I'm sorry.
Who's Verlander? Who was pitched a complete game.
Saw it last night. Actually saw
Astros.
some. Oh, I didn't see that one. No.
You watched what? The Dodgers,
Cubs. Yeah.
That was a good game. They were both good games. Surprisingly, both of them were good
we
games.
have a guest protocol initiated here in the common law condo. Tina's sister and her husband are here.
Okay.
And, they're from the Chicago area, so big Cubs fans.
Well, the games weren't on against each other, so you could have watched both.
Yeah, but we also had to go drinking. They're from Chicago, so.
Oh, yeah. Chicago equals drinking.
Equals beer. Exactly.
Well, there's plenty of. I'm sure you enjoyed the local brews. There's a lot of good.
We went to this place called Lazarus, which is a great name because in Holland, if you're completely blotto drunk, they say you're Lazarus. Which makes sense from the biblical meaning of the word, because Lazarus was resurrected, from the dead. So you're as dead as Lazarus. Yeah. And we had a beer flight. The things I learned.
So you had a flight of the beers.
I did indeed. That was good.
Why?
Because that was all right. Thanks, John. All right. Chicago. Just Chicago, okay? Don't ask questions. It's all about Chicago.
Did you find any beer that was any good?
Oh, yeah, they're all good.
A consensus beer. Everyone said, this is the best.
Oh, no. There's never a consensus, no.
There you go.
Okay. Well, stuff happening.
Yeah, there's a few things.
Media-wise, lots of stuff happening, actually.
Yeah, media-wise. You want to go to the Weinstein thing because...
This might as well. I mean, that's what... There's so much to, let me use the phrase, unpack. In Hurricane Harvey, we forgot to see the obvious.
And then I found at least two editorial cartoons where they caught that
Hurricane
guy.
Harvey. We were late
Hurricane
to that.
Harvey.
We were
which hurricane you talking about?
Exactly. I know there's a number of things. I think the commonality that exists is using this. Well, actually, I've heard two. Using the Hurricane Harvey ordeal for political means and racial means. I mean, it's beautiful. Whatever it is, just remember our president sucks. And actually, let me just play a couple of these. What I'll do?
Okay.
What I'll do for? Oh, actually, I'll go backwards. Jane Fonda was on CNN with Christiane Amanpour. It's very worthwhile listening to the longer piece, but we can do that later. I just want to play the kicker. This was at the end of her interview.
But I mean, Donald Trump is, we have a man who is president who does these things. And what kind of a message does that say? Unfortunately, that counteracts a lot of the good that we're doing, because a lot of men see, well, our president does it, and he got elected even after people discovered that he was an abuser. So I'm just going to go ahead and do what I want to do. It's unacceptable. And we can't ever forget that. And we have to stand up to them.
Yes.
By the way, this is one of the elements of the Trump cycle.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. It's spot on, too. Spot on.
And I think that the one that follows is Russia. So I think there's more Russia stuff. I
think you're right. Let's go to Hillary.
But we don't have the cycle down completely, because then what comes after Russia? But we have all the elements. We just don't have the order.
Yeah. Well, let's stick with this for a second.
Yeah, stay with this.
Yeah.
Anyway, Yeah, keep going.
All right, here is Hillary Clinton, who took it one step further. You probably saw this was aired a lot.
Family lives there. You're from Puerto Rico. You used to own an island down there?
Yeah, I did until 4 months before the storm hit.
Oh, I'm sorry. What is that? How did I get that? That's odd. That is...
Well, it's an island.
No, that's very strange. No, that is Geraldo. How did that get in there under that? Hold on a second. What happened here?
Uh-oh.
That was... How did that get renamed? Hold on a second. Well, while I'm looking for the appropriate clip, let's listen to 1 minute of Hollywood thanking Harvey.
Harvey Weinstein, Bob Weinstein, God bless him.
Harvey Weinstein, who believed in us and made this movie.
Harvey and Bob Weinstein.
Harvey Weinstein.
Thank you, Harvey Weinstein.
Especially Harvey.
I want to thank Harvey and Bob Weinstein.
Thank Harvey Weinstein.
Harvey Weinstein.
Harvey, who first took me on 20 years ago.
I would like to thank Harvey Weinstein.
Harvey Weinstein, who had the guts, the courage, the commitment.
Especially Harvey Weinstein, a man of dedication and vision.
Harvey Weinstein. Well, listen, so...
Harvey and Bob Weinstein. You also break my heart with your uncensored passion.
Harvey Weinstein.
Harvey Weinstein.
Harvey Weinstein.
Harvey and Bob.
And Harvey and Bob Weinstein.
To you, Harvey.
Harvey Weinstein.
Harvey Weinstein.
The Harvey Weinstein Company, okay?
Thank you, Harvey Weinstein, for putting your heart behind this film and shining the light on this. We really like to share this with you.
I want to thank the Mashbuka Weinstein.
Robert Williams at the end. So I don't know what happened to the Hillary clip, but it doesn't. I mean, what she said is we now have an admitted sex assaulter in the White House. That was the main thing, which is kind of disputable if the evidence that he admitted he's a sexual assaulter.
Yeah, where's all the women lining up like they are in this deal? Let's go back
I just got another one here. I got a few more. This is ABC's 2020. I think this was from Friday. This had a double kicker in it.
This was the special.
It had a double kicker in it.
The culture of silence exists because it is a scary thing to go public. But that culture is changing.
In fact, a kind of cultural climate change is underway.
Oh, nice.
Even as Weinstein walks the Oscars red carpet, equally powerful media titans are suddenly being toppled for allegations of sexual misconduct. Bill Cosby, Fox CEO Roger Ailes.
And late today, word of a major change at Fox News.
Bill O'Reilly.
Bill O'Reilly, fired by Fox News.
Even a 10-year-old recording of a boastful future President Trump has come to light.
Hey, when you're a star, they let you do it. You can do anything.
Oh, yes, it's beautiful. It's beautiful. It's all politicized. It's fantastic.
Well, I have a couple of I'm going to slip this clip in because of what she just said, which is, it's this culture of silence.
Yeah.
Oh, no, you. Well, here's how. This is the H.W. Harvey Levinson tale. Harvey Levinson was on Hannity, and he told this story, and this is an example of what contradicts everything that we keep hearing about, the culture of silence.
Yeah, I just don't know which clip it is. I'm sorry. It's very hard.
H.W. Harvey Levinson.
Yeah, I just don't. Oh, here it is. I'm sorry. Okay. Brain fart. Got it.
Everybody talked about it. People even joked about it, but nobody spoke out about it. What can you tell us?
Well, I can tell you a lot right now. We just put this up on the website, and I think this is really significant. Angie Everhart, a model and an actress, went on TMZ Live today, and she told us a story about the Cannes Film Festival, and she was on a boat, and she was sleeping in a cabin, even though...
John, if you're interested, I have her story, what he's about to tell. Unless there's something else that he says, it may be more interesting to listen to Angie's word herself.
Okay, put her on.
First of all, my hands are shaking. This isn't really easy to talk about. I was at the Cannes Film Festival. I was on a friend's boat. Harvey walked in front of me, took his pants down, did his thing, exited on the floor, if you know what I mean, pulled his pants back up, said, "You're a really nice girl. Don't tell anybody about this," and left. So I told everybody about it. I said, it was a lot longer than that, and he was blocking the door. I couldn't get out. I'd rather not say which year because I don't want to talk about which boat I was on, and I don't need to talk about that.
No,
I had just arrived.
Actually,
I had just arrived from America. I had jet lag. I was in the bed sleeping. when I woke up to him above me. He came in actually with another girl, and she left, and he stayed. So they both stood up there. They both stood there, and I was like, I couldn't get out of bed because I was wearing just a little T-shirt and nothing else. So I was stuck, and they were in front of the bed. It was just terrible. It was a terrible moment. And, I told my husband about this when I first met him. And when all of this came out, he was like, you have to come out. You have to tell people this. I'm just glad that this is, because when I talked about it before, nobody listened. Now people are listening, and not just for me. I'm glad that people are listening so that it doesn't happen anymore, because it's not okay. They say it's hearsay. It's my word against your word. I told people on the boat. I told people at the dinner I was at, and everybody was like, "Oh, that's just Harvey." People have known this about Harvey for more than a decade. There isn't a single person who is anybody in this business that doesn't know that Harvey Weinstein has been like that. If they know Harvey, they know he's been like that. It's a very scary thing in Hollywood to come out and talk like this about somebody who is so powerful as Harvey Weinstein. He got stories crushed, and he can crush you. He didn't physically touch me, but he physically touched a lot of girls, from what I hear, and I feel so bad for those girls.
I think we both picked up on the same thing, John, that this is a whole nother industry which I personally have always had a beef with, because Andrea Everhart's not an actress; she's a model. Very, very different, and that can of worms needs to be opened up. The agencies. And, why wouldn't she say what boat she was on? I think that's important. I think we actually might need to know.
A lot of these women will tell the story.
You know what it is?
They won't.
I know what boat it was.
Okay.
That's right, everybody. Welcome aboard Harvey's Love Boat.
Well, that didn't work.
No, it did. It just needs a little production.
They don't give us specifics. There's a lot of non-specific stuff, but the point that was being made here, and Harvey goes on and pounds it home with Hannity, which is that when people went around and told everybody, like this woman, she told everyone at the dinner, she told everybody, she just couldn't stop talking about it because she was so offended. And of course, my takeaway from the whole thing is lock your damn door.
Yeah, exactly. That's another
anyway.
issue
But she told everybody, and everybody knew it, which brings us back to Meryl Streep.
Okay.
Who claims, I don't have a Meryl Streep clip, but we played her the other day, and she's, I didn't know, but I'm befuddled. I never heard of such a thing.
Yes.
So, but let's go back to, this is on Democracy Now! They dug up some woman who's a professor at Colorado University. And this took place in 1984 when Harvey and Bob had just started their company. This is when the whole thing, I guess Harvey, when he was doing music production, which is another can of worms business, he must have picked up these habits, because it's kind of hard to hear this, and Amy's intro is a little long. But this is the HW 1984 story. 1984.
In 1984, when she was an aspiring actress, her work focuses on the psychological consequences of the sexual objectification of women and girls. Tomi-Ann Roberts, let's begin with you. We're going to talk about the work you now do on the sexual objectification in girls and women. But let's begin with what happened to you more than 30 years ago in 1984. How did you come in contact with Harvey Weinstein?
Well, the stories are beginning to sound monotonous, right? And chillingly familiar. I was waiting tables. I was a student at Smith College, and several friends and I had decided to spend the summer in New York City pursuing our dreams. And so we sublet an apartment, and I was waiting tables at a restaurant, and that's where I met both Bob and Harvey Weinstein. They were relative newcomers on the scene, explained to me their new company, Miramax. And pretty soon I was given to believe that I might be someone who could audition for a movie that they were going to be writing and directing. And it would have been the first movie they were writing and directing here in the United States. And so I thought to myself, such a new company might not take such a new unknown person for granted. And so I decided that I would try to audition for that movie. So throughout the course of the summer, I would receive scripts and script updates. I did visit the office on an occasion.
Yeah. God. Yes.
She goes, it gets, of course, it goes right back to the same MO.
Yeah.
But which brings me to the point of Bob Weinstein says that he only knew about this 2 years ago.
Sure. Yeah. No, he knew.
Are you kidding me?
No, of course. Of course, that's crap.
So he's a liar. These people are unbelievable liars. Let's just wrap this up. You know what the ending is this story.
And then I was invited to what I believe was Harvey's apartment. And my expectation, of course, was that others involved in the movie would be there as well. And that turned out not to be the case. And it was in this, down a rather darkened hallway, that I discovered him in the bathtub. And that encounter, as you might imagine, was petrifying to a 20-year-old. I sort of stood there frozen. And Mr. Weinstein was quite calm about trying to explain to me that if I would at least take my top off, this would demonstrate to him that I wasn't going to be shy about doing so in front of the cameras. The movie was likely to have topless scenes. And looking back, as I've said in several interviews now, I'm slightly ashamed to think that the only way I could imagine getting out of there was not running, but rather politely and sort of self-effacingly apologizing for the fact that I didn't feel comfortable with that. And so I did eventually exit and found a payphone, called my boyfriend, and basically threw my acting aspirations in the wastebasket.
You had actually gone back to one of your tryouts, your auditions, where they said that you were moving forward, and they told you they weren't interested anymore, Weinstein's company.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. I don't know if it was Weinstein's company. It was a casting agent. At the time, I was so frightened because of the previous experience that I convinced one of my housemates to come with me, a rather larger young man. And once we got there, it was pretty clear that Harvey himself, neither Harvey nor Bob were going to be there. And the casting agent was a very kind older woman who just sort of said to me, you're not getting this part, right?
Yeah. Surprise, surprise.
So this begs the question, which I think I have one explanation for. I'm not sure if you do. Of why now?
Well,
we see this started in 1984. It's pretty obvious. It's been going on. Everybody knows about it. Everybody did all the material from the open jokes, the Seth MacFarlane material, the Dirty Rock material.
Right. It's all there. Well, the obvious easy answer, which you came up with on the last show, I like very much, is that this was out of control and Bob Weinstein decided to do something about it. It still does not necessarily explain the timing of it, and particularly coming from the New York Times, although we know that in television news, they want it to be in the New York Times first, and then everybody, it's okay.
Everybody mentions that.
Yeah.
And Harvey Levinson talks about, in fact, he says that Weinstein is going to sue his brother and try to get back in the company.
Wouldn't surprise me.
He says because he was wrongly fired. He says they didn't have the right. And apparently there was a clause in his contract that says he could be a pervert.
Yeah, he could be a pervert. He would just have to pay fines, and a fine and any hush money that the company had to pay. I have not seen the contract, but I will believe it.
We could find it.
You know what I heard? I heard something interesting. Do you remember the fappening? When we had Hollywood actresses, there was a whole dump of sexy, semi, and nude photos, suggestive. Jennifer Lawrence was one of them.
Yeah, she would be.
Well, if you go back and you look at you look at 4chan, where the fappening unfappened, the or one of the insiders at the time was saying, "Hey, this is coming from one Hollywood mogul from one phone," and the thinking is it could have been Harvey's phone, which he had, he received nice little messages from his potential actresses.
It's possible.
Yeah, I think it sounds very possible.
Well, anyway, so the one explanation that I liked, which just came out, which was in PJ Media, and a guy, the writer Simon, who's a Hollywood screenwriter, I think, and he's done some other stuff. He says, he theorizes that the reason, and this makes sense when you hear it, because the New York Times was involved.
Yeah.
The New York Times is this big Democrat kind of a propaganda machine. There's no reason.
They would not do it without reason. I agree.
The reason is Hillary. Really? And I think that blow up between Hillary and Bill is part of this. Oh. They think that Hillary's off the rails. This book makes it look like she wants to run again. They see it as a nightmare scenario, having her run again at age 80 or whatever she's going to be, right. 75. And they had to do what they had to do. They had to throw Harvey, despite his connections, under the bus, because this brings out the connection between Hillary and Harvey and those photos at her head, putting her hands on his chest.
Hold on, John. Let me just play it's about 1:10 of the Hillary interview. I think it was a BBC interview, actually.
I was shocked and appalled because I've known him through politics, as many Democrats have. He's been a supporter.
Yeah.
He's been a funder, and, for all of us, for Obama, for me, for people who've run for office in the United States. So it was just disgusting, and the stories that have come out are heartbreaking. And I really commend the women who have been willing to step forward now and tell their stories. But I think it's important that we not just focus on him and whatever consequences flow from these stories about his behavior, but that we recognize this kind of behavior cannot be tolerated anywhere, whether it's in entertainment, politics.
Well,
after all, we have someone admitting to being a sexual assaulter in the Oval Office. There has to be a recognition that we must stand against this kind of action that is so sexist and misogynistic.
And this depends upon women coming forward and having the courage to come forward.
Right.
And yet in your book, the 3 women brought onto stage by Trump attacking your husband, and you kind of dismissed them.
Here it comes.
Was that the right thing to do? Are you sure about that?
Well, yes, because that had all been litigated. I mean, that was the subject of a huge, investigation, as you might recall, in the late 90s. And there were conclusions drawn, and that was clearly in the past. But it is something that has to be taken seriously. As I say, for everyone, not just for those in entertainment right now.
There you go.
Well, here's another little add-on then. I heard that interview too. I didn't clip it. She kind of feigns naivete in this whole thing. And I think that's why right now and on this show, we're playing clips that have now been presented showing that this has been going on for a long time, A.
Yeah.
And B, everybody knew. That means Hillary knew.
Yes.
And that's the counter thing. You got to do something to counter Hillary, because they blow this out, and then Hillary's got all these bullcrap excuses. They are trying to get Hillary out of the way. She won't go away. She's a nightmare to the Democrats. They had to do this.
Then if they decided that it was this important and Harvey was the right fish to fry, they have to have something else. It's got to be a 1-2. You can't. It's not enough. It's just not enough. Hillary's slick. There's got to be a 1-2. There's got to be something else.
Wait.
Meanwhile, there is a lot of stuff going on, particularly in the film industry. This, of course, came out.
Amazon put its studio's chief, Roy Price, on an immediate leave of absence following allegations that he harassed a producer and ignored an actress's claim of sexual assault by Hollywood producer Harvey Weinstein. The Hollywood Reporter reported that a producer on one of Amazon's shows said Price allegedly lewdly propositioned her in 2015. The Amazon producer did not immediately respond to a request for comment. Also, actress Rose McGowan wrote on Twitter that she told Price that Weinstein assaulted her, but that Price did nothing. Price could not immediately be reached by Reuters. He declined to comment to The Hollywood Reporter. A spokeswoman for Harvey Weinstein said any allegations of non-consensual sex are unequivocally denied by Mr. Weinstein. Price has been integral to Amazon's movie business. The studio picked up 3 Oscars this year under his helm. His removal creates uncertainty about its direction, just as Amazon invests some $4.5 billion in video content this year.
And it's always so fun in Hollywood. Oh, the studio head. Oh, they have no. Oh, what's going to happen now? Oh, what are they going to do without the studio head? I have a couple things on this.
By the way, I want to add a little color to the thing with McGowan, because she told Price, according to the Twitter back and forth, that her account was suspended for. She says, I was raped by Weinstein. And he says, there's no evidence of that. And she says, I'm the evidence.
Yeah. But I got a note from one of our producers, a Texas Baron, actually, which I'd like to share with the group. You might enjoy this because, we have lots of stories from Hollywood, but how about something from our own little environment? A Harvey Weinstein story. I think it's quite salacious and nice. This is 2009. Our Baron in Texas had a unique circumstance, a run-in with Harvey Weinstein. He said, I'll try and keep it short here, but he was on the lake during spring break to promote an alcohol party-related product that he had developed as a side business. He had a wakeboarding boat and a crew of his friends and promo models. It just happened to, I'm going to switch to him now. It just happened to be when we were filming when they were filming Piranha 3D, and we were approached to use our boat and peoples in the party scenes. So how could I say no? The Weinstein Company was one of the production companies. The director actually threw a party for the cast and extras one night. He said, pathetic flop. The cops were called by 11 p.m. due to poor choice of neighborhood/house, despite a pretty chill event, and shut it down. My friends and partners and I took it upon ourselves to throw a real party for everyone at our rental house. Proper planning and neighbor networking produced a party of epic proportions that went until 2 hours after sunrise. Most of the younger cast were there, and Eli Roth. You know who Eli Roth is?
No.
He was the Bear Jew in what was the Nazi Tarantino Nazi movie with Brad Pitt?
Okay.
And but he's a horror director. I know him. I know him from LA. That's why I think the story is better. Most of the younger cast were there, and Eli Roth spent a lot of time trying to make out with my girlfriend, who is now my wife, but he had to settle for a BJ from some random party goer, apparently on the back of my damn boat while it was still covered in fake blood from the set. Come to think of it, that's probably why Eli was drawn to it. Harvey Weinstein showed up with the director and the director's PA once the party was well in swing. House was packed to the gills, club music thumping, skinny dippers in the pool, and plenty of dark corner shenanigans by this time. A frighteningly perfect environment for a creeper. An epic creeper he was. We immediately noticed him as we were looking to promote a product and keeping our eyes peeled for the VIPs. Unfortunately, he quickly started using our product as an excuse to creep on random young girls. In short order, the complaints of groping and strong uninvited advances started to roll in. He was even trying to grope girls right in front of their boyfriends. With my eagle-eye view as ad hoc DJ at a raised table, it was all very obviously a power trip for him. I brought the lights up and used my megaphone to thank Weinstein, Roth, and Aja, the director, and their staff for creating a fun experience for all of us extras. And in doing so, paused everything long enough to create an opening for one of my business partners to sidle up to Weinstein and talk his ear off to protect all the women from his advances. It worked perfectly, clearly scaring him off as he left the party shortly after. Couldn't count how many thank yous we had after he left. He left a real stain that took some serious party people effort to wash off the crowd. Nice.
Yeah. Everybody was unaware.
Douchebag. Nobody knew.
Nobody knew, especially Hillary.
Now, one troubling thing is part of how this is being spun into, again, more hate against men. And unless you want to do something in the interim, this will be the last thing I have. I just want to play this couple of minutes of Jane Fonda with Christiane Amanpour, because I think she does think like a lot of women, certainly in the United States. You okay?
Oh, I'm always highly entertained by whatever Fonda does.
I'm glad it's coming out. I'm so proud of those fellow actors that are speaking up, and I know that it's taken a long time. It's a very, very, very hard thing to do. You don't get anything out of it.
Oh, by the way, the preface. Fonda claimed she didn't know anything.
What she'll say in this interview is she didn't know anything until a year ago, and she'll explain why she didn't know anything. It's a little more expanded than just the headline we got.
Yeah, I know. I heard this too. And it's bull crap, but okay, because it's just bull crap.
It's a very, very, very hard thing to do. You don't get anything out of it as the person who's been victimized, but it's important that it come out. But, let's not think that this is some unique, horrific. This goes on all the time.
In Hollywood?
It's this male entitlement. In Hollywood and everywhere, in offices and businesses all over the world.
Yeah, exactly. She's completely right, because at Department of Homeland Security, Janet Napolitano was abusing... Oh, wait a minute. She's not a man. Well, she was abusing the men, moving their desks. Yeah, moving their desks. Yeah, moving their desks into the bathroom. Go work there. Shut up.
Horrible.
You
this
stupid
was
man.
the most covered up scandal that I've ever seen.
And it was published. The New York Post kept writing about it until no one cared. There's no celebrities who came out. No one said this is horrible. Yeah, it happens.
In bars, in restaurants, in stores, women are assaulted, abused, harassed, and seen for just being sexual objects there for a man's desire instead of as whole human beings.
Did that ever happen to you?
What?
I get a kick out of her. She was like promoted herself as a sex pot.
Barbarella.
Barbarella, and had a couple ribs removed so she could have more noticeable shape.
Is that true?
I think it is true. And look at the work she's had done that she got irked about when Megyn Kelly even mentioned it.
Yeah.
I mean, give me a break, lady.
As whole human beings.
Did that ever happen to you?
It has happened to me. It has. I only met Harvey when I was old, and Harvey goes for young because that's more vulnerable.
She certainly knows him.
But it's very, very common. Bill Cosby, another example of Hollywood. But, Dominique
Strauss-Kahn?
Strauss-Kahn.
Oh, yes, that's right. Dominique Strauss-Kahn. How could we forget? You know what? While you're naming other people from other industries, what about Al Gore humping the poor massage lady like a poodle? Isn't it time to call him out? Yeah. Isn't it time? Hello, Al Gore.
This thing saying, would you see anything that you might have won a massage?
Yeah, Al Gore. Come on, but isn't it time for him to fry a little bit?
Name Al Gore for
the
sure.
IMF, for example, he's not in Hollywood, but this is not unique. This goes on at the most horrendous high levels.
What do you think Hollywood men should do right now? Studio heads, leading actors? Because it can't just be the women who have to be brave enough, especially, as you say, most of them were young, fledgling careers.
That's right. Let's go to another Hollywood man. How about Terry Crews?
That's actor Terry Crews in one of his Old Spice ads. He says the Harvey Weinstein scandal is giving him PTSD, reminding him of when an unnamed Hollywood executive sexually assaulted him. Now, in a 16-part tweet yesterday, Crews said, quote, "My wife and I were at a Hollywood function last year, and a high-level Hollywood executive came over to me and groped my privates," end quote. He went on to say if he had reacted how he wanted to, this would be the headline, quote, "240-pound black man stomps out Hollywood honcho." And
wow, that's your excuse? Because you were afraid of of creating a racial storm? Fuck you. Fuck you, Crews.
Yes.
Back to Jane.
We have to be helped by men. It's important to know that not all men are predators.
Thank you.
There are good men, and the good men have to stand up and defend us and embody other ways of being. We have to believe the women who come forward. We have to speak out. I found out about Harvey about a year ago, and I'm ashamed that I didn't say anything right then.
Why didn't you? You're so bold.
You're so bold and so brave. Come on, Hanoi.
I was not that bold.
No, it's okay. She's honest. She wasn't that bold. So you're also part of the problem.
Because I guess it hadn't happened to me, and so I didn't feel it was my place.
Yeah. What did you know?
Well, she's admitting the exact problem.
One of the women who has
she's
spoken
bitching about
out, Rosanna Arquette, told me, and it came as a shock and a great disappointment. This male entitlement.
What did she say to you?
This isn't male entitlement. Hold on a second. That's the other thing that's going on with this.
Yeah,
this is generalizing.
Yeah, I'm
male
irked by
entitlement. This guy's just a pervert. Give me a break.
Now, I have to say, because I'm sure that the women in your life say the same thing. Yes, women get harassed all the time. In all kinds of workplaces, not denying that at all, but not by all. It is a big. My dad was like this. God, I hated the shit he would do.
Well, there's a bunch of guys. I've told stories on the show
I hate this. I hate
the guys
these guys
in the air pollution district like to harass waitresses, but harassing and poking around and doing one thing is different than a guy who comes to a party that you just read the synopsis of.
Yes.
Comes to a party and makes such a scene. Everyone's thankful when he leaves. Is not a classic anything. He's a singular perverted douchebag.
Yeah. Yes, but there are a lot of these types of douchebags, and it's not entitlement. It's something else. It's passed on.
It's douchebaggery.
Yeah.
And you can say there's a lot of them, which seems to be part of the litany. I think you've been suckered into saying. What about that party that you just discussed? There was a lot of people at that party. How many of them were Harvey Weinstein like? None. Just him. And I think if you generalize about Hollywood, I don't think you're going to find too many. Oh, yeah, there's a guy who makes a pass at someone or does, grabs a breast now and again. We have a clip of something we wanted to use because it has a nice little phrase in it from the list, which you might want to get to.
Yeah, I'm going to open up the list right now.
But it's just like, I think it hurts the cause, especially the cause that women have, to generalize that this is some sort of male entitlement. There's no entitlement here. This guy is an off the rails perv, period.
A total agreement. I'm just saying that there is a large group of men who are not the same as Weinstein, but definitely use their...
I don't know how large the group is. How many do you know?
Well, I'm going to start with my own father. I'll start right there.
Okay, you got one. I know two guys. Two guys. And I know a lot of people, but I only know of two guys. And it's not that you don't know about these guys because it gets around. Everything does in these communities, whatever community you're in, whether you're a writer community, tech community, whatever. The word gets around. Some people never get the word for some reason. I suppose that could happen to anybody. But generally speaking, it's a guy you can point to. It's not like an epidemic.
Okay. It's all right. I'm just trying to show some sensitivity towards what's really happening in the male-female world. Is just what it is. But it's not like Weinstein. I totally agree. And I, too, am irked by, male entitlement. That is absolute. I mean, yeah, I don't like it either. That is a generalization, which is just incorrect.
What did she say to you?
I want to leave that to her to describe what she went through.
Because they say it was an open secret in Hollywood.
I didn't realize that, but I believe that apparently it was so common that everybody must have known. And of course, these kind of men, it's not only sexual predation. These tend to be men who treat other people not well. I mean, not people they need, not people like Meryl Streep or me in my old age, but he didn't treat the people who worked with him well.
This is the first time I've heard her talk about how old she is. Twice in a segment. She went
beyond that. She said old age.
Old age. She went very far with that.
He was just not a nice person, although he could be nice when he needed to. Mm-hmm. And this is very common among these kind of men. It's a mindset.
Well, who else then, darling?
You said it happened to you, obviously not with Harvey Weinstein, but in your youth.
Want me to give you an example? Very first French film that I made, the director didn't speak very good English, and he flew to L.A. to pitch me the story, which was hard for me to even understand what the story was. But I remember him saying to me, and I was 20, he said to me, in the movie, your character has to have an orgasm, and I really need to know what kind of orgasms you have.
I got to try this one myself. Does that really work? I'm a French director. I have a perfect role for you. Yes, but I must understand the nature of your orgasm. So if we can try that.
And so he wanted me to sleep with him.
Yes, coucher avec moi.
That's subtle.
Yes.
That is unbelievable.
Really?
Oh,
well,
really? It's unbelievable. I have a quick interrupting type story. I was hanging out with a kind of an impresario of nightclubs. I think kind of Boston mob based.
A story I have not heard. I'm liking it.
You never heard it.
I never heard it in my life.
The guy makes the comment. Yeah, well, I wasn't getting laid much until I learned how to lie to women.
Oh, I've read this quote. Where the hell did I? Oh, you have told me this privately. Maybe that's probably it.
Maybe.
Yeah.
And I always was taken back by that. And then I realized the first time I went to New York City, I was hanging out with them when they had all this unbelievable bar scene up on the upper First and Second. And it was just that's when the bars were open. It was a city that never slept and all that. That went away very quickly, but it was true until about 1985. And I remember seeing these guys in the bar with these pickup lines that were just, how dumb are you to believe this person? They were all casting guys. A lot of it had to do with show business. They had phony cards, that said they were executives at CBS or whatever, and they were all trying to just bed these women. And it was just a kind of a snake pit of liars. And which then, when they met the guy from Boston, that's when I realized what the hell is going on everywhere.
Right. And we don't have to finish the clip. But what happens is she didn't sleep with him, got the role anyway. The guy was nice, and she never reported him. Because,
she says she didn't sleep with him.
Yeah.
Do we know that for a fact?
No, I'm not going to. It doesn't matter. He tried a sexual advance, and she should have called him out.
But that's different than a guy sneaking into a cabin and jerking off.
And this exiting on the floor business. I mean, his whole MO is very odd. He's very sick.
Yeah. Yeah, and it's written into his contract, and he's going to get his job back. Probably. No one's going to talk much about that because this is all about burning Hillary. And you're probably right, because Hillary is so dogged. She thinks she's going to run for president again, and she's going to ruin it for everybody if she tries, because she's got the mechanism.
She does.
She's got the machine. It's still in place.
Yep.
And she's got the women.
So do you think that maybe she was banking on Harvey? That she was really banking on it, like banking on Harvey?
I wouldn't be surprised. They claimed that some reports says she received at least $1.4 million during this last campaign.
Right.
And
he's a bundler. He's a bundler.
He's a bundler.
Mm-hmm.
She is, but I believe you're right. She is going to. They have to drop another shoot because you can't take somebody out like that with one punch.
And there's such a close connection between the Weinsteins and the Clintons. It's close. Like next door neighbors close.
So they got to have something else up there.
Okay, well I like that. I like that as a theory. We need to be on the lookout for clues.
Yeah, for the next thing.
Yes.
And see if we can spot it in advance. That'd be cool.
I'm done with Harvey. Are you done? Everything good with the Harvey Meister? Hurricane Harvey?
Yeah, I think so. I got one more clip, but I'm not going to. It's not important.
No, it's not that. Why don't we take a quick break and get a look at, or take a listen to the week's news as brought to you by NPR. This is the most important stories, and see if you can find the common denominator amongst this wrap-up of the most important news of the week.
A heck of a week. The president cutting health subsidies for the poor, making some big changes on the Affordable Care Act front by executive order. Decertifying, today's the day for that, we're told, the Iran deal. Smacking around Puerto Rico a little bit, talking about helping them as well, but some tough language there. Senator Bob Corker, Republican, saying Trump risks starting World War III with his public language and comments. Trump, facetious, I guess, but still challenging the Secretary of State to an IQ test after the reports that Rex Tillerson called him a moron. Trump threatening the free press in very specific terms. We'll talk about why, but kind of remarkable language there. We've got the Clean Power Plan scrapped this week, California burning, and all of us with that on our minds. And, of course, yes, the Harvey Weinstein sexual harassment, assault, rape. You can join us this hour. What do you think? Will the president's moves kill Obamacare? And where does
Is that all the news NPR has? Is just Trump, 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 Trump? Hell of a week with Trump. Nothing else in the world happening. Nothing to see here. Their agenda is showing.
It's unbelievable. That is the worst rundown I've ever heard. If you want to do it, just general news stuff.
It's all there is. Nothing else to talk about.
Moron, IQ test, all the memes.
It's great.
Wow, where'd you get that?
That's NPR. That's,
but I mean,
Tom Ashbrook.
what is that? Where's they preface? I never heard that rundown.
Oh, he does that. It's on point, Tom Ashbrook. Yeah. One of our producers listens to NPR religiosity and is always sending me a rundown, so I can literally pick and choose. And okay.
Oh, we want to pull that, and you run it every Sunday. That's much better than the This Week bull crap that I've been.
Yeah, you're right. We want to have his rundown. That
rundown is dynamite.
The most important stories of the week.
Trump.
Yes. Well, there's more hate Trump's love stories. Let me see. George Lopez. It's finally happening. We knew it would. George Lopez was at a gala before. I guess when it never really happened with me, but whenever you're asked to do something at a nonprofit, if you are some form of actual star, not like a celebrity from MTV or worse, a podcaster, you get paid for these events. And it was a gala for juvenile diabetes in Denver last week. And he started doing Trump jokes. And then there was some guy in the front. He said, hey, I just donated $250,000. Would you mind just laying off the president? I'm in the mood to hear it. This is about kids and diabetes. And he kept going. And then the audience wasn't responding. And he said, are you what, El Chapo people? What's going on? And he got booed off the stage.
Oh,
huh?
Nice.
Yeah, it's about time.
About time. When I was mentioning Mimi was down here for Comedy Day, and which she works. And she says every comic comes up Trump, Trump, Trump. It's very tiresome. And Mel Brooks, of course, came out and says that Trump has ruined comedy because these guys these jokes aren't funny.
Wait, it's Trump?
Oh,
Trump's
Mr.
to blame?
Cheeto. He's got a Cheeto face. I mean, this is not funny material.
No. But Trump is to blame? It's not the comics who can't come up with anything better. It's actually the Trump who's being blamed?
No, that's Brooks said that. No, he's obviously not blaming Trump, but he's blaming the fact that Trump won and these comics are preoccupied because they can't come up with anything else. It's ruined. The scene is not Trump, Trump, Trump. I mean, Jimmy Kimmel's a good example. I do admire the fact that Fallon came out and says he's not going there.
I didn't catch any of that. That's what he said. That's the latest.
Fallon actually did an interview saying, I'm not doing that. I'm not going to do a hate Trump night show. It's just not, I don't see the point of it.
Good.
And, yeah, that's what I said, because it's pointless. And Kimmel is, meanwhile, backpedaling on all the rest of, the stuff that he's doing.
I sure hope he finds some time to talk about the 85 people killed in Mogadishu.
You'd think?
Nah, no one gives a shit. As long as it's in America.
Trump.
Trump. Is Trump responsible? No? All right, next story. That's how it works in newsrooms everywhere. 125 psychologists and other mental health professionals marched on Lower Broadway Saturday to demand President Trump be thrown out of office.
Yeah, because it's just the way it works. You just demand he gets thrown out, and he gets thrown out. That's just so simple.
And even though it would have been a great sign, they didn't say, and we marched for the 25th, because that's what they really want to do. They want to use the constitutional clause, the way it's being described, that allows presidents to be ousted when their cabinets decide they are unable to discharge the powers and duty of their job. And this says, so let's see, Harry Segal, Cornell University psychologist, says, we can sense the power of Trump's underlying fear that he is worthless and weak by how intensely he resists and retaliated against any criticism. No matter how minor, he can't let anything go. Michelle Golland, also a clinical psychologist, agreed, quoting, excuse me, we're actually suffering from his narcissistic personality. He has no empathy. You can feel it, the way he spoke about the San Juan mayor. She has PTSD and our president mistreats her. She's re-victimized. That's a narcissist. Really? Re-victimized. Now I can play my Geraldo clip about Puerto Rico. Here we go. He's from Puerto Rico. His family's there, and I guess he had an island there, which he might have sold.
Family lives there. You're from Puerto Rico. You used to own an island down there?
I did until 4 months before the storm hit. And the island survived, ironically.
Really?
Everything is fine. The solar panels,
How
the
is
pool,
that
everything's
ironic?
I don't know why it's ironic. Maybe it's just
because it's all about him.
It's about him. It's ironic. And it's available on Airbnb, I'm sure.
Survived, ironically.
Really?
Everything is fine. The solar panels, the pool, everything is fine.
But everything's fine. The pool, the solar panels, it's all great.
I'm so glad you asked me about Puerto Rico, because I want to say this about the president. He has been getting the worst, most dishonest press about his visit to Puerto Rico. It is staggering to me how unfair, how grotesquely unfair the reporting has been. For example, I can attest, because I saw with my own eyes, that 95% of everyone he came in physical contact with or who lined the routes were all enthusiastic about his visit. And the president is right about something else. He is right about the fact that the infrastructure in Puerto Rico was an absolute disaster before Hurricane Maria. It is a dysfunctional system. It is a corrupt system. The power authority should be in jail. They have used the private, the public Puerto Rican Electric Authority as their own private piggy bank. They should privatize energy in Puerto Rico. They were awful before the hurricane. 70% of Puerto Rico was out of power before Maria hit. From the Irma. It was a glancing blow. Last year, 3 days, it was one fire, one power plant. 3 days, the entire island was blacked out. We should bring in whoever it takes, bring in GE, bring in the Chinese, bring in somebody to buy that power company, run it as a business, and give people reliable. I can't have my Aunt Ellie sitting in the dark anymore.
On the island with the pool and the solar panels.
My pool.
That's a good point, though.
Intact.
That's a good point, though. It's a good point that it was a mess before the hurricane struck. Yeah. But no, here's a look at the news for this week. President's bad.
Yeah. Well, and he wants an IQ test.
He is kind of a moron, though. I have to admit, weird shit.
Well, let's see what we got here. I'm trying to get a rundown. I have a rundown of what happened this week, according to CBS. Trump, I ran because I want to play this new head of DHS from Democracy Now!, which kind of tells the story a little differently than we're getting from the mainstream media about this woman.
President Trump says he plans to nominate Kirstjen Nielsen to serve as the next Homeland Security Secretary. John Kelly, Trump's previous Homeland Security Secretary, now serves as Trump's chief of staff. Nielsen's a longtime DHS official, recently serving as Kelly's chief of staff. Under President George W. Bush, she was the senior director for preparedness and response at the White House Security Council ahead of Hurricane Katrina. She was subsequently singled out in congressional reports as one of the key figures in the Bush administration, who had been warned about the impending catastrophe of Katrina but failed to act. She's also worked in the for-profit security industry, first as a firm called Civitas Group and then founding the security firm Sunsys Consulting.
I'm glad you picked up on this because I have not looked into her background at all. Who is this woman?
Well, she's apparently an old Washington, D.C. hack, the kind of people that they don't want in there, and who goes back and forth between the private sector and the public sector, and has worked her way up to of all things, to be the head of Homeland Security, which is not a minor role.
No.
I find it actually kind of fascinating that anyone could manage to do this.
Let's see where she comes. She graduated from Georgetown School of Foreign Service with a JD from the University of Virginia School of Law. So she is
a spook.
I don't know if she's a spook. She has the earmarks.
That's the earmarks.
Let's see. She was Elaine Duke's chief of staff at Department of Homeland Security and informally performed the role of White House deputy chief of staff since Kelly resumed office as White House chief of staff, and then she became Secretary of Homeland Security. Oh, okay. So she was doing something. She was interim chief of staff momentarily that we maybe not heard about. Didn't realize that. And
she was chief of staff of
the White House.
Yeah. Yeah. Right. Because
deputy chief of staff.
Deputy.
I'm sorry. Deputy.
Yeah.
Got it. Yeah, that is interesting for her. That's not. I don't think she really has the background for that role, honestly.
No, I don't think so either.
It's all been like really scary people.
An administrative assistant, glorified. I mean, she's Kelly's assistant. He's the chief of staff. She's not.
Well, it certainly blows the whole Sessions will go there out of the water. That's. By the way, what happened to the hate for Sessions? Did that just end, or was that just a media frenzy?
It's part of the cycle.
Yeah, you're right. Maybe it should come up again. Maybe that should be next.
Come up again.
No, I'm saying maybe we have Sessions is next in rotation. Yeah, I think so.
There's so many items. We made that long list of items, which I don't know if you have any more. I have it somewhere.
I have a
long list of items. Why Trump's an idiot. He's a moron. The Russians stole the election, and one thing after another. And it's a long list.
Yeah,
he's a sexual pervert. He's incompetent. There's one thing after another, and they come and they push one agenda and then another, or one meme, let's say, and then another, and then they move to the next, to the next, to the next. And Sessions is in there, and he'll come up again in the rotation. Right now, I think the rotation is headed toward Russia.
Russia.
Yeah, that's what it looks like to me. It looks like they got the Harvey Weinstein thing. They can make the association. It's a sex thing, and Trump is a sex fiend, just like Harvey Weinstein.
Right.
Which is bullcrap if there ever was anything that's bullcrap. But I see this slow transition back to the Russian thing. And we also have that he's a madman. We got to get that in there. But it rotates. So Sessions will be back in the picture shortly.
Yes, for sure. Well, regarding Russia then, the only new news that I got is that the Russian Facebook, Twitter, Google, YouTube, Tumblr ad campaigns, also on Instagram, also included a part of a campaign with Pokemon Go. They're so smart, these Russians. They know exactly
they're dynamite.
They know exactly where to get the stupid Americans. Pikachu. That's the problem. We need re-education. Put people in some FEMA
Russian
camps.
Style.
Put people in some FEMA camps. Make them understand. We're stupid. I love it. We'll do anything for a video game.
Well, let's play this is a long clip, but this is a Trump rap from one of the networks that kind of keeps us up to what's in the news. A little better, I think, than that NPR guy.
Well, yeah, but that's NPR. It should be world affairs, all kinds of interesting topics.
Well, should this, but this is just Trump.
Iran is not living up.
A day after Donald Trump's broadside against the nuclear deal, Iranians are digesting the news and trying to figure out what it means. It is possible their country's economy will take another hit. But Iran's foreign minister, Jawad Zarif, who sat down with CBS News today, thinks President Trump's decertification has above all damaged America's reputation.
Nobody else would trust any U.S. administration to engage in any long-term negotiations.
In his response to Donald Trump, Iran's president hinted his country might now expand its conventional weapons program, which would add fuel to the fiery rhetoric blazing between Washington and Tehran. No sooner had the deal been signed that the Revolutionary Guard began testing missiles. It was, at the very least, provocative.
Because the United States is selling hundreds of billions of dollars worth of so-called beautiful military equipment to countries in this region.
He means to Iran's arch enemies, especially Saudi Arabia.
We need to defend our people.
At Friday prayers this week in Tehran, there was the usual chant of death to America. In recent years, Iranians have come...
Did they still do that? I didn't hear them go death to America. I just hear them go, what?
Well, I think it's in Persian. But yes, according to her, they
still do
but
that.
She claims that it doesn't. She has a little explanation.
Tehran, there was the usual chant of death to America. In recent years, Iranians have come to see this more as a stale ritual than a real battle cry. But after Donald Trump's aggressive speech on Friday, that could certainly change.
Oh, come on. That's just guessing. That could certainly change with his rhetoric. Yeah, it changed my rhetoric
So I'm thinking this, if we're going to listen to some of our own theses, as opposed to our own feces. If the military intelligence group took over the White House from the CIA, the Central Intelligence, DIA, took over from CIA, which we've discussed as a possibility, is it possible that their idea of a good time is going to be a lot different than the CIA's, and they would like to see, because it was mentioned in this report, they would actually enjoy seeing an Iran Saudi Arabia war, general war in the Middle East, because there's a proxy war right now going on in Yemen. Yeah, which is
it's bad if you're in Yemen.
Yeah, if you're in Yemen, you're in the middle of a proxy war between the Saudis and the Iranians.
With us refueling and doing other groovy things.
Well, yeah, we're giving the money to the Saudis to kill innocent people. Mm-hmm. And is it possible that there is a scenario that somebody has written down, a war scenario, something that shows that would be beneficial to the United States for a general war to break out between Iran and Saudi Arabia, because Saudi Arabia is kept out of the whole fray, but until this Yemen thing came up, and they're all in on that. So, and it doesn't take much logic to take it to the next level. If you're going to be fighting the Iranians in Yemen, you might as well just fight them in the general area.
Right. But the Iranians don't really do that. They don't really like to. They like to fund other people. They don't like to fight.
Well, no, but they were all in on the war against Iraq, so they do have a warlike tendency. I mean, they weren't not fighting. And so that's not that we haven't seen it within our just recent memory that the Iraqis and the Iranians were at a full-blown war.
Well, let's listen to the president's own words. Well, I'm sorry. They're not his words. They're teleprompter words, which he is delivering.
My fellow Americans, as President of the United States, my highest obligation is to ensure the safety and security of the American people.
Yeah, no, I'm really, really, really sorry. Who is writing this for you? That you may feel that's your responsibility, but the oath you took is to defend and uphold the Constitution. Yes, we fall under that, but please. I hate it. It pisses me off. It really does.
History has shown that the longer we ignore a threat, the more dangerous that threat becomes. For this reason, upon taking office, I've ordered a complete strategic review of our policy toward the rogue regime in Iran. That review is now complete. Today, I am announcing our strategy, along with several major steps we are taking to confront the Iranian regime's hostile actions and to ensure that Iran never, and I mean never, acquires a nuclear weapon.
All right, so here's the problem with the thesis, and I like it. And it sounds like, this is indeed part of the plan. You're never going to have a nuclear weapon. We'll put a stop to it. The problem with Iran is they don't have a dude. There's no one to point at. That Shah guy, no one, it's too confusing. People understand if he has power because they got some president. They need a bad hat. We can't sponsor an information war against Iran if we don't have a baddie. I think it's a real problem.
Well, that can be resolved with good public relations.
Right, so let's be on the lookout for it. If that is the mission, they've got to have...
Okay, let's make the assumption that the DIA running the White House and the president and the executive office... Once a war between...
Military intelligence. Let's just make it clear. It's
military intelligence. We'll use that. Once a war between the Saudis and the Iranians, for whatever reason... take over the oil. We don't know just havoc.
Well, we can sell stuff.
Yeah, we can sell a lot of stuff. That's true. It's a moneymaker for us if it's done right.
If the plan is executed properly.
Yeah. So let's see if things head in that direction.
Yeah, I mean, we'll just have to.
We do have a little episode with Qatar, which is another little sore point. That again, I'm sure NPR mentioned that in their rundown about the craziness going there. I guess not.
No.
With the Qatar and the Saudis having a beef with them, and the
Qatar is
all in with Iran.
Qatar is advertising everywhere. CNBC and other business channels, they're advertising. Qatar open for business. This is an unfair block. Screw Saudi Arabia. Come on over, join us. It's all groovy here.
This could be, if orchestrated correctly, this could be quite interesting to watch.
Yeah. Well, we will be watching. I'm looking for a bad hat to arise. I don't know how they do it. I don't think there's any election scheduled. We need someone to be the bad guy. You need to say that guy is killing his own people, or come on,
That's the basic. That's the basic one.
The basic building blocks of what we do. Well, with that, I'd like to thank you for your courage. They say in the morning to you, John. CUSC stands for Compositing Russia Stories for the Trump Cycle. Dvorak.
Well, in the morning to you, Mr. Adam Curry. Also in the morning to all ships at sea, boots on the ground, feet in the air, subs in the water, and all the dames and knights out there.
Yes, in the morning to, let me bring it up here, Joshatorium. Now, Joshatorium brought us the artwork for episode 9072. Title of that was Menprovement, which is not caught on yet, but we're still waiting. Menprovement.
Menprovement.
This was Taylor Swift, the patriotic 2020 presidential kind of photo of her with the stars and stripes in the background and the White House. I can't remember why it was so good.
Oh, I can remember.
Yeah.
We looked at all the different art and we said, well, a picture of Taylor Swift.
Oh, that's right. Always a winner. You're right. It's like, there's nothing against Taylor Swift on your album art. It always works. It's cheap, but we're doing it.
Yeah. And I until we get a letter.
You're right. I forgot. That's exactly why we did it.
Yeah. Because we had notes like, oh, Taylor Swift wouldn't run for office. Yeah. Bunch of complainers. Well, we only have two people here to thank, and we do have a third, which is because the checks didn't get posted.
Oh, okay.
Would be there. Well, I'm just going to move the third, and hold on.
To Thursday's show.
So I'm going to tell Patrick Mealy in Bountiful, Utah, that he's going to get moved.
Okay. And
Gage is his son. He's giving a knighthood to. Will
hopefully we got all birthdays and stuff off the checks if we're lucky.
This is the only. There's none.
Okay, good. All right, good.
So the only thing here is this: the thing to Gage is a late birthday present because he was turned 18 in September, which is last month.
Got it. So
let's go with what we got. Kelly Sandland is the executive producer for show 973. She came in with 333.33. No note. Keep doing what you're doing. Boom.
Thank you.
NJNT.
There's one on the boomometer.
Keith Gibson, $200 will be our associate executive producer, and he just says dealer's choice on the jingles.
Well, dealer's choice.
I'd like to pick an Obama if you can find if you can find it.
Yeah, I think so. Obama if. Let's see what we have. I think it has to be if, doesn't it? If.
Yeah, every time you look for it, you can never find it.
Yeah, I'm not sure what that is.
Obama if.
If it does.
Okay, how about this? How about just form a circle and a big hug, that old-fashioned, that old clip that's tell a secret. Okay. No, there's no competition.
Yes, I have that one.
Okay, it's a favorite of
That's
mine.
all you want? Only that one? You want an if,
well,
if,
no,
if,
I had
if.
the if.
Damn it. Obama stutter? Why can't I find this? This is really bad.
Yeah, this one needs to be
it does.
named.
Yeah, it does.
Let's do this every time you look for the if.
I'm not sure what's going on. Anyway,
there's no winning. We don't like to foster a competitive atmosphere, but we laugh a lot. Now everyone hug and share a secret.
You've got karma.
I have this.
We've seen more manufacturing jobs created since I've been president than any time since the 1990s. But frankly, part of it's had to do with a bunch of okey doke. That's a fact.
Better crapping now. Okay.
That's a good one.
That's all right. We have.
I forgot about that.
We have better ones.
Yeah. I want to mention the about there's no competition. We just hug and share a secret.
Yeah.
There's an article that came out on Zero Hedge about Home Depot fearful that, which is something we talked about recently, that the millennials, they don't even know how to use a hammer. They can't hammer a nail.
Really?
Yeah, and they don't know what to do about it, so they come out with videos how to show people how to use hammer and nail. I mean, it's just unbelievably idiotic.
This goes back to our home ec conversation.
No, home ec and shop classes are no longer available to kids because of liability.
Liability, of course.
Liability. So there's no shop classes. There's no auto shop, which used to have.
You can't do anything with autos anymore anyway, John. You can't get in there. It's all tightened up. It's all locked down. You can't get in.
Yeah, and that's true. But you could still build a car from scratch, or you could maybe learn how to tune up a fuel injection system. I mean, there's new things you can do that would be appropriate in auto shop. Wood shop, they used to have metal shop in one of the schools I went to.
Yeah.
So they had the three kinds of shop for the boys, and they had home ec and a couple of other classes for women, although you'd see women in the wood shop class too. But you learn how to, use a screwdriver.
Do you think, do they still do we had this, where you have to partner, boy, girl have to partner up, and you have to have a baby that's a doll, and you have to take care of the doll for the weekend together?
That's never happened. I've never seen that. I predate that bullshit.
Yeah, it was around. It was around for sure.
I'm sure it was, and I'm sure it came after I was. Yeah. It came and went.
Hey, was that it? Was that it for the donations?
Yeah.
Man, I can't take this roller coaster.
Yeah, it goes from up to down, up to down. Yeah, I know.
Yeah,
even if we had the extra one, it would only been one more.
Disturbing.
Which will be on the next show. And there's also some guy promised a big giant check, but it never showed up. Skeptical.
Okay. All right. Well, we want to thank our sole executive producer and sole associate executive producer for coming in and helping us out as best they could. But I'm just looking at this list. It's going to be a short second donation segment as well. What is going on?
It's weird. I can't put my finger on it.
Well,
it's just
we always have to wonder if it's a message.
A pre-collapse of the economy.
Yes, Armageddon is nigh, I'm sure. Well, these, of course, are official credits, so you can take them, put them on our business cards, put them on your LinkedIn. Join a guild if you want to. The Producers Guild will recognize it. And again, we really appreciate it. We'll be thanking more people. $50 and over later on in the second segment. And remember our show coming up on Thursday.
Dvorak.org/NA.
And of course, the rest of the weekend, you got your Sunday left to go out there and propagate the formula.
Our formula is this. We go out, we hit people in the mouth.
Order.
Shut up, slave.
Hey, citizen. Shut up, slave.
Yes. Okay. Hey, poop update.
Oh, okay.
This is, you've seen the poop app. This is all based on your story about hepatitis A.
Yeah.
In San Francisco, in the general San Francisco area.
Well, the San Diego's worse.
San Diego is where it's the worst? Okay. Now we may have an answer to why this is happening, why this all of a sudden sped ahead. And if it's true, and I think it's reasonable, it shows you how sometimes the best social justice movements can result in undesired movements. And
I got it.
Go.
No, I got the joke.
Oh, you got the joke. Oh, okay.
There was a joke in it. You didn't know?
Yeah, I did, but it wasn't meant to be deconstructed.
Oh.
No, this is because of the plastic bag ban. There's no more plastic bags for the homeless people to poop in.
Oh, that's an interesting little observation.
It's not just a little observation. I think it's huge. Here, this is the homeless man who writes the Homeless Survival Guide said the hepatitis outbreak was completely predictable. It's why I left San Diego. Absolutely, we know people use bags for that, said the San Diego County Public Health Officer Wilma Wooten. We know people don't have bathrooms and they can put bags in cans and buckets and maintain good hygiene. That's why we put plastic bags in the hygiene kits we're handing out. Oh, okay. That'll solve it. You take away millions of plastic bags and now you're going to hand out little kits. Little hygiene kit. Here's your poop bag. Here's your toothbrush. Don't confuse them. I mean, come on.
That's a very good observation.
And I didn't know this, but hepatitis A spread by contact with feces or blood. We knew that. But even a trace amount that's months old.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
You have to heat it to 185 degrees to kill it. It can live for months outside the body. Holy moly.
Yeah, it's a very bad actor.
Jeez. Maybe this is a new product we can launch.
What?
The No Agenda Shit Kit. Just an idea.
I walked right into that one.
Yes, you did.
So, well, while you're on the idea of some of these things, these things last, the diseases and the horrible things that are going to happen. I didn't clip the whole thing because it went on forever, but because there's this show, I think it's called DW World, that I pull some crazy clips from every so often. This is one of them.
Yeah.
But this is a classic example because I remember there's this one guy, I can't quite remember his name, who's on London's that talk show, who's always condemning people who despise the EU for their frivolous laws. Play the pommes frites versus the EU story.
Did you know that the French fry is in fact not French, but rather Belgian in origin?
I did.
Belgian fry doesn't quite roll off the tongue the same way, but they are delicious. One reason for this is the country's unique double fry method.
I do just want to say one thing. You know I am an expert in the fry arena.
Well, I'm glad for you.
I'm just saying, I will be listening
But then you
intently.
can comment when after this clip is over, I'm going to make tell you some more stuff that was in the furtherance of the clip.
Okay. Yeah, very
and
good.
then I want you to tell me, with using your expertise,
yes,
what's going on.
I think we did this story, by the way. We didn't have a clip, but we did the story.
This is pretty new in the news rotation. It just came out this weekend.
We did the story.
Okay.
For this is the country's unique double fry method, rendering the spuds crispy on the outside and soft on the inside. But this beloved dish is now being threatened by European Union laws on food. The rest of Europe often complains about bureaucracy coming out of Brussels. But now it seems bitterness is being tasted closer to home.
This summer, Brussels was the site of an unusually delectable political drama. At its center, Belgian frites. Unlike similar tasty treats made elsewhere, here they are lovingly bathed in lots of oil twice.
First, you've got to deep fry or poach the chips in hot oil. That ensures they stay soft inside. Then they're fried again to a lovely golden color. The amount of time depends on the type of potato, on its sugar and starch content. You need an eye for that. It's a skill.
You can sense when they're done?
Oh yes, in Belgium we can tell when they're ready.
So, understandably, Belgian fry aficionados weren't pleased when the EU Commission proposed new guidelines on how the snack should be prepared. And to add insult to injury, the report called them French fries rather than frites.
Oh, no.
Pages of recommendations regarding crispiness, sugar content, and pH value. A change in processing procedure actually began in the early 1970s when a German fry manufacturer used a machine to cut up the potatoes, which were then blanched. That is, briefly plunged into boiling water. The result? The chips absorbed less oil, but they also tasted a little bland. Artificial flavoring took care of that problem, but that's another story. Then in 2002, acrylamide was discovered in food. Believed to be carcinogenic, it forms in the frying process when certain foods are heated to a temperature greater than 120 degrees Celsius.
Before you say anything, you said this was brand new news. I'm not doubting you. I just want you to show you how far ahead the No Agenda show is This is episode 940, June 22nd. The commission has come up with a little issue with the Belgians. Now, you need to know that even though the Dutch... Okay, so that's when we were talking about it.
Sounds right.
That's how good we are.
So now I'm looking at this report because they show on the screen in HD the pages of the... which is about 10 pages of rules.
How to cook French fries.
Yeah. And I'm looking at this, and it's like, I got to get a copy of it because it's like... And by the way the story ends, it goes on, a big fuss is made, and people come out with all kinds of bitching and moaning articles, and then the EU comes out and says, we're not going to do anything, which I think is what we determined in the first time we talked about this. But I'm looking at these rules, and it's discussing the sugar content of the potatoes has to be such and such. They have a color scale, and you have to match the potato chip when it's finished to a color scale with a value, and you can do that either by comparing it to a chart or by hitting it with
a paint chip. Okay, that looks the business right there. Yeah, perfect.
It went on and on and on with the sugar content and the pH, the finished pH, and how long you can leave it in the oil. It was unbelievable that these guys are that bored. This is the problem when you have with bureaucrats with nothing to do and they decide to go after something. Maybe they hate the Belgians. I don't know. But they didn't go into the details about the German method of making potatoes with their, boiling the potato first and the rest of it. But I will say this. Anyway, I was aghast by the story. Mm-hmm. But I want to just, since we're going to talk about French fries just for a second, you're a French fry expert.
Mm-hmm.
I have found that, for one thing, I have played with this double cooking idea forever because it shows up in The Joy of Cooking and it shows up in Julia Child's cookbooks.
Yeah, and it's double frying, really.
You fry it a little bit and you take it, then you fry it again. I have found that it does nothing, and it doesn't do crap. I'm more concerned about the potato itself than the methodology for cooking the potato. And I will say one thing for people who like to make French fries at home, that if you can find, if they have them, the German butterball potato, if turned into French fries, is an absolutely remarkable product because it actually ends up looking like it was coated or something when it's cooked. It doesn't just make a smooth surface. It's got a kind of a cringly little thing going on. In the cooking process, and it's a fabulous tasting French fry. Generally speaking, when I do French fries,
can I just say one thing about what I know about the frying process in Belgium of the frito? I lived there, and of course,
sure, yeah.
It's two different types of oils at different temperatures.
And what are those temperatures? And what are the tools?
That I don't know, but I know that they have a pre-fry and they have the pre-fry 4. And then the main fry, and it's right. I think it's two different kinds of oils.
It would make sense because you have different specific heats in each oil, and it would
different heats for different temperatures of the oil. Yeah.
Generally speaking, I cook in safflower oil, which has a high specific heat. You can really get it hot, and I use, if I can, if it's normal potatoes, as opposed to the German butterball, I will use a 5 millimeter size chip, which is close to being shoestrings, but it's not.
And do you cut that yourself?
Yes, but I don't do 5 millimeters itself. I use one of those.
That's very
one of the slider things that you can kill yourself with. Those horrible
slice half of your
French
finger
devices.
Yes. Those are my favorite.
But you have to be careful.
You got to be careful.
My finger. You have to be very careful with these things, and. But 5 millimeter, you get the little 5 millimeter because they get the little blades. You stick it in this thing, and they're 5 millimeters apart. Then you adjust the vertical by hand, and you get a nice 5 millimeter French fry, and it's absolutely killer. But safflower oil is what I use because I think it's a safer oil. Once it's heated
what is the oil? What is the oil?
Safflower. I use safflower or sunflower. Safflower oil is a great high temperature cooking oil. Sunflower is a good oil too. You don't need expeller oil. In fact, you probably don't want it. These oils are created from a hexane extraction process generally. And when the oil, and if the oil is hexane, is toxic. When you heat the oil up the first time, I don't use any of these hexane oils for salad dressing. But if you heat it up the first time, if there's any residual hexane, it gets blown off by the heat. So you're in pretty good shape.
I have long since thought that in the United States, having a frietkot, or as we would say, snack bar, just selling French fries, like the Dutch do it. They actually sell it, but you have you can have, it's like a food trailer. You can have a food truck.
They have exactly what you're describing in New York City.
Yeah, well, you need a lot of them because people will dig that, and it's very cheap. It's a cheap product to make an outstanding tasting.
Yeah, I agree.
Dish. Yeah. Hey, John, another opportunity for us.
Yeah, we can go into the free truck game.
Free truck game. Very nice. Well, Zero Hedge also wrote an interesting story. Maybe it came from the or from somewhere else. Orient. Maybe it's a reprint. And I know we brought this up about the Spexit, where Catalonia wants to get out. I don't really have an update on that at the moment. But the talk in the European Union is, this is very dangerous, or some may actually want it. Who knows? They talk of the Catalan chain reaction, which could set off. Next on the list would be Flanders and the Flemish and the Walloons.
Yeah,
where Flanders would want to.
I saw them. There's a little map floating around showing all these little hot spots where this could happen.
How about Wales? Wouldn't Wales be?
I think Wales less likely than Scotland.
Okay. You could have Friesland. Yeah,
there's a little map floating around showing the real hotspots, and I think is Basque country is one of them.
Yeah.
But I think that's pretty been reduced to next to nothing.
We should. I really like this French fry truck game idea. Do you know what the toppings are? The typical Dutch, Belgian toppings. I'll give you the nicknames too. So you have French fry with. You just say French fry with.
Yeah. Mayonnaise is the number one.
Very creamy mayonnaise. Then you can have a special, which is mayonnaise, ketchup, and onions. Then you can have a patatje oorlog, which means a French fry war, and that is the same as the special. So you have the mayonnaise, the ketchup, the onions, and you add on some peanut satay sauce. And satay sauce. Yeah, we call it satay sauce. So the peanut satay sauce. There's a multitude.
I wonder, do they use that peanut sauce in Belgium? Because that sounds more like a Dutch thing.
Which one?
The satay sauce is just peanut sauce. It comes from the Indonesia. The Dutch would have it because of their
Indonesia. I'm smacking my lips because I'm hungry now. I can taste it. Like, and then you can. Then the secondary product is croquette, fricandella, hamburgers. You can sell all kinds of secondary stuff, but make your French fries, make it the main deal. It's money in the bank.
$10.
All righty. Speaking of oil,
millennial French fry.
Speaking of oil, our old phrase "peak oil" is back.
Why?
I'm glad you asked. There's a new meaning to peak oil.
You have just dropped a bombshell off camera, and then you've done it again on camera. You think the oil price is plummeting to $10?
Yeah, not in the next few weeks or months or maybe even quarters, but I think the long-term outlook for oil, because of what's happening in terms of electric vehicles, 70% of oil use is transportation, cars and planes and so on. So what happens to electric vehicles is really, really important. And if you look at some of the long-range forecasts, we used to talk about peak oil in terms of supply. We now need to talk about peak oil in terms of demand. And I think the year could be somewhere 2023, 25, peak oil demand.
Well, the great old Saudi oil minister quote, of course, which we often drag out in moments like this, is the Stone Age didn't end because of lack of stones.
Right, yeah, and that's fascinating, isn't it? But I mean, you know, what's fascinating?
It's like it rolled right off his tongue. I'd never heard it, but I like it a lot.
I like it.
The Stone Age didn't end just because of a lack of stones.
Lack of stones.
Right, yeah, and that's fascinating, isn't it? But I mean, you know, what's fascinating? We forget, I mean, 120...
Yeah, he's a dick. He was like, shut up, you interrupted me. I'm fascinating. Let me continue.
20 years ago, the world didn't live on oil. Oil hasn't always driven the global economy.
To be fair, although I have got room for a horse, I particularly want one.
No, you don't want a horse, but it was coal, and before that it was wood, and there have been other sources of energy, excuse me. But I think the point is alternative energy in some forms is gathering speed. You know, there's Moore's law within solar energy.
Boy, that's a mistake.
You got to be on the lookout for that meme. Really? That means every 2 years the amount of silicon you can pack into a sheet is going to double and the price is going to drop by half. Boy, that hasn't happened.
Within the cost of it. I think it's a terrific point, because interestingly, it's often new economies and emerging economies that adopt new technologies first, because they don't have the old infrastructure that they have to keep servicing.
And
so it's easier to do that.
Dare I say, a command economy, it's easy to get stuff done. Everyone says that oil is going to be a very important part of the mix 20, 30, 40 years out.
Yeah, I'm talking about peak oil. I mean, think of, and you know, the numbers could be not much more than 20 million barrels a day where we are, maybe 25. I don't want to pin it down too precisely. It's a big broad range. But the point is, you know, how to you know, Saudi still makes its money if oil goes to 10, but it doesn't balance its books. You know, Russia, the global politics changes dramatically.
So what do the oil companies do?
Dramatically. Canada. Everyone loves Canada at the moment.
Right.
But deep oil, they need high prices.
I like that little bit at the end. Everybody loves Canada, but wait until the oil price goes to $10. Ha! You'll be screwed.
Well, the oil price could go to 20. I mean, it's happened. We've seen these fluctuations before, but it's really looks very stable at where it is right now, which is at $51.42.
Right.
And
well, I like the concept of peak oil as in demand is interesting.
Yeah, I like it too.
Because everywhere I go, I hear people talking about electric vehicles, and they somehow the hypnosis is complete. There is no thought at all about the dependence and who then controls your vehicle, or potentially can control your vehicle, and that is your pipeline to energy, to electricity, which, you know, in some like disasters isn't available, but it's also something that gets, you know, cut off. There's this very
in Puerto Rico.
This is very deep inherent belief that once we have the infrastructure in place to recharge or swap out a battery, it's going to be just as easy, and you'll have your freedom. And I'm like, no, I mean, and especially get a diesel, then. You know, it's also hard to convince people that even a modern-day diesel can run on salad oil. Yes, it can. You don't have to change anything.
Very few. Well, you had to make some adjustments.
No, nothing. The only adjustment you have to make is you need to be able to heat it in the tubing if it's too cold outside. That's all. It will run.
Well, diesel engines are remarkable, and I would say if you're a total paranoid freak, that's exactly what you want.
Yeah, that's what I really do want. I can't afford the diesel version of a truck. But
the gasoline engine, to me, still seems like to be the best alternative when given a choice. And I agree. This electricity thing is unreliable. And these cars that they're bringing out do not go very far.
I have a scientific question for you, which struck me. I can't answer it. I may sound really stupid.
Okay.
But John's like, oh, goody. Oh, yes. Okay. Let's go. All right. The energy that you have in your vehicle, whether that is in my truck, which is gasoline, whether that's in a Tesla, or maybe even a supercar, it doesn't matter. The amount of energy, which is measured in kilowatt hours, and there's other types of measurements that come along with that. That is just the amount of energy that you have to spend on the road with your vehicle. If you're whether you have a tank full of gas or whether you have a filled up charge. That energy comes from somewhere. So if you have, let's just say for a purpose of argument, you have the same range in a Tesla as you do in a mid-sized car that can go 200 miles radius. So let's just say it's the same. but doesn't the amount of energy that ultimately is transferred to the wheels onto the road, that has to come back from somewhere? And is it so much cheaper to create all of that energy that is stored in the battery than it is to burn it almost straight away in the gas-powered car? Does that make any sense?
I think what you're trying, I don't know what you're trying to say. I mean, it might make sense.
I'm asking a question.
The point is that you have to get the energy into the battery from someplace, and
and you got to take creating the battery, all of these things. Does it really do that much other than possibly?
Does it save money? Is what you're asking. Does it really save money when you count the cost of electricity, the cost of generation of the electricity, and all the rest of it? There are some. It seems to be cheaper. That's why you get that 100 mile per gallon equivalency.
Mm-hmm.
It seems to be a little cheaper to use electricity, but the electricity is using some power someplace, and people think that a gas engine can also provide that same sort of miles per gallon equivalency.
Mm-hmm.
If the engine was more efficient, or there's some new kind of motor that was developed. Apparently, there's people are working on that as we speak. Not necessarily with the
maybe it's the ultimate cost to power ratio that I should be looking at. What does it really cost?
Yeah, I think it's a little cheaper, and it also has got more environmentally friendly
for sure
at the car level.
Yes, for sure.
Not necessarily at the power plant level,
right?
But you lose a lot of electricity through the power line, so there's really a lot of wasted energy no matter what you do.
Right.
But I believe it to be a little cheaper.
Okay.
I could be wrong, and there may be an engineer out there that can show us a calculation showing it's not cheaper, because we do know that these numbers, the equivalency numbers, are one thing. There's also the fact that these cars are subsidized, and you're not really paying what you should be paying for these cars.
Yeah.
And so if you're paying, $120,000 for a really fancy electric car, and you have the gasoline equivalent car that is $75,000.
Yeah.
Are you saving $50,000? I don't think so.
Yeah. No, I don't think so either. All right. Well, I notice in my environment, people are all in and really forget about.
Can you remind us what town you're in?
Oh, Austin. Yes, Austin. Blue dot in the red state. Woo!
I wonder if you went outside of Austin to a normal town.
Yeah, you ask the question, you get shot. It's like, no. Son, what you doing here, Austin?
What are you doing with it? What happens when you get that car, when that electric car electrocutes you?
Hey, let me tell you. Go look at the training manuals for EMTs on how to disable. Every vehicle has special kill switches you have to pull before you can do anything to it.
Yeah, that includes Priuses.
Yes. Oh yeah, the Prius has got a lot of high voltage that could mess with you. Yeah, mess with you for sure. All right.
I want to do at least do one. I got two clips. I want to do two rundowns of the fires, because the fires are still going on.
Have we seen any rain?
We have, but further north.
Okay, it's on its way, people. It's coming. We've done it.
I'm doubting it. But let's now. I have some personal anecdotes. I mean, the other day there was the ash coming down.
Yeah.
In the Bay Area. I mean, it wasn't enough to cover anything. Just like, oh, look, there's a piece of ash. Yesterday, the winds shifted around here in the Bay Area. It was beautiful. And in fact, it was so nice. Yesterday was clear. There was no smoke in the air. It was absolute dynamite, even though they're showing people wearing masks and getting carried away.
Yeah.
And then yesterday evening, I'm going to bring a term into the domain here. Yesterday evening, I went out. It was one of those perfect evenings in California where it's about 67, 68 degrees, no wind, no breeze, but still clear. Beautiful. It feels great to be outside in that weather in the evening or even the early night. And the first thing you think if you've lived in California, when you feel that feeling that only happens once in a while, you say to yourself, earthquake weather. And
that's what I always say.
That's what I went outside. Oh, man. Earthquake weather. And people always mock Californians for saying earthquake weather. But that experience that's what earthquake weather is. And it's always usually in October when there's usually an earthquake.
Wow.
That's bull crap. There's no such thing.
Damn.
So let's play the I'll say I have an earthquake. It's funny. Fire update. Now I want to say this is Lindsay Janis on ABC, and I have to just do a call out because I've decided that as a reporter, she's always in the field doing something like this. I think she's the best reporter on all three networks.
Really?
In the domestic reporter. I think she's pleasant to look at. She presents herself well in terms of the way she does her reads.
I'm sorry, what is her name again? What is her name?
Lindsay Janis, Janis, I think. But it's Lindsay, Linzie. She is just when she does a report, it's always thorough. It's well put together. It doesn't have a lot of propaganda necessarily in it. And I just like her reporting. She's great.
She comes from CNN International in London when she started her career. Then
really? She's got no London accent. She must have been.
Graduated with it. Well, she's a real journo. She graduated with a degree in journalism from the University of the Arts of London, in London, which is a fine journalism school, I'm sure.
Oh, well, now listen, see if she has a British accent. She has none. That's how good she is.
Turn next here to California's deadly and devastating wildfires. They fear possible worsening winds there this weekend. Dangerous conditions expected through Sunday. Winds up to 50 miles an hour. And look at this tonight. Smoke 75 miles away in San Francisco. People wearing masks. Schools closed today. ABC's Lindsay Janis in Santa Rosa again tonight amid news stories. One couple surviving in their neighbor's pool, the fire all around them.
Tonight, firefighters keeping up the battle to save homes.
I heard it right there in the Tonight. In the Tonight. That's what.
It's
that's
very
what
minor. If you hadn't told me that, I would have never
No, I wouldn't have known either.
All around them.
Tonight, firefighters keeping up the battle to save homes amid the deadliest week in California fire history.
The enormity of this disaster we're only beginning to understand.
Harrowing stories of the victims now emerging. The Shepherd family's car catching fire as they fled the flames. 14-year-old Kai didn't make it. The rest of the family badly burned. The fires now larger than New York City.
This is how so much of the battle against these fires is being fought by hand. Firefighters spraying and raking the ground, putting out hot spots.
More than 3,500 structures destroyed. In Sonoma, a team of firefighters saving several homes in just a few hours.
We were just literally running from house to house. It's super smoky, it's super hot. You really can't see very well.
Tonight, with hundreds of people still missing, we're learning incredible stories of survival.
She said, "You got to get out of that house."
Jan and John Pasco say their daughter called to alert them to the fire.
I looked out my window, and there was a wall of flame out my window. So that's how fast it happened for us. We had no warning.
Their only option? Their neighbor's pool, holding each other in the water.
And countless family pets rescued too. The Sonoma County Humane Society treating cats with burned paws.
Doing hard work there to help save the animals. And that story of the pool is just something, Lindsay. Lindsay Janis back with us from Santa Rosa tonight. And Lindsay, you were telling us they're now estimating the damage to housing alone there at more than $1 billion already.
That's right, David. At least 5% of the housing here in Santa Rosa totally wiped out. The damage estimate, more than $1.2 billion. And you can see just how quickly people fled. These 3 wheelchairs left charred and mangled right outside this house.
Man, what a horrible story. By the way, she's from Schaumburg, Illinois, which I think is the rich suburb of Chicago.
Well, was that where she from before she went to London?
Yeah.
Oh,
And
okay,
she's married to Good Morning America senior broadcast producer, John Farrakhan, something like that. Mm-hmm. Hey,
well, I like her. I think she does good work.
Well, she looks like a real journo.
Now, journo. You don't have to overdo it.
I do.
So there's a little snippet I have of this story, and I want to discuss it. This is from ABC also. This is the mailman snippet.
Okay.
Vicky Walker hugging this firefighter to say thank you. Firefighters across California saving lives, homes, and so many family treasures. In this image, the mail truck still stopping at mailboxes. A haunting moment, but still a moment of dedication.
Okay.
That's
so here we are. Now you got.
That's our United States Postal Service, John. You should be proud of that.
I'm kind of proud of it, but again, I'm thinking maybe they should have some common sense here. There is a house. There's a block of houses. There's not a house there. They're gone. There's just nothing.
There's a mailbox.
But there's a mailbox and a stick.
What are those made of? How come they hang around?
I don't know, but this apparently didn't catch on fire. It's one of those. It's like an RFD box. It's not like in the house. It's out by the sidewalk, and it's there. And the guy is putting mail in it. There's no house there. There's just a mailbox. So okay.
Hey, it's got delivered mail.
There goes.
Oh, Armando. I bet you there's a rule about it. We've got a very famous mail carrier here in Austin.
Well, you should get a hold of him and tell him what's the deal.
Yeah. He's never offended, by the way. Luckily.
Oh, good. Well, good.
Not going to go postal on us.
Well, we're pro post office. We've always been on this show.
It's a great institution.
It's an astonishing product if you think about it.
Yeah. It has its issues.
Yeah, but look what they do. But again, common sense here. There's no house, and there's a mailbox where he puts mail in it. It's a truck. It's that mail truck. Hey, they won't let anybody drive around these areas, but the mail truck's okay, good to go.
Now, here's my problem. Why have they not been able to link this to Trump somehow yet?
Well, they haven't. I think the same thing I said before, which is that they're going to do the linkage in the postmortem. And they're going to link it to Trump. They're going to link it to global warming. They're going to link it to all kinds of things. But the real problem is that California is such a Democrat-run state that has been kind of kicked to the curb by the Washington and Trump.
Right. They don't care much.
It's going to be hard to blame Trump for anything in California ever.
What do you think you said it was incompetence was your feeling? Last time we discussed it.
Yes, I said I didn't like the way this was being handled because it got out of control so quickly.
Yeah.
They didn't call in the cavalry right away when it first broke out. I think it was on Wednesday maybe. And then they played it was all a defensive game after that. Telling people to get the hell out.
Right.
And I'm just bothered by a suburb, a housing development on flat land.
Yeah, you've gone through this.
And I know, and it's a continuous complaint of mine. The whole thing going up in flames. I don't care 50-mile-an-hour winds or not. It just doesn't.
Yeah, doesn't add up.
Right. It just says to me that everything is nothing safe.
Yeah. Oh no, get used to it, slave. You're not safe. Please. But you said cavalry, and that brought up a different topic, different clip. But I'm aghast.
Segue.
Yes, I'm aghast that you don't have to point it out. That Canada is now leading the social justice warrior movement. I mean, this is supposed to be our gig, all right? But no, they have to go and take it one step further. I know we've talked about it, but it actually is now coming to fruition with certain names and things that we just cannot use anymore because they are cultural appropriation or culturally inappropriate.
Mr. Byrd, what's wrong with the word chief?
I think the administration here at the TDSB made the proactive decision to change.
That's the Toronto School Board, TDSB.
Just given the fact that it has been used as a negative word, a slur, a pejorative to people in the Aboriginal community over the years. So they made the proactive decision to eliminate it from the about roughly 20 or so people who had that in their title here at the TDSB. And that's out of the obviously close to 40,000 staff we have here.
Well, give us some examples of the titles that have been changed.
So, for example, we had 12 chiefs within our professional support services department. So, for example, the chief of social work, we had a number of those. Those are now managers of social work. So that's one of the decisions.
Are you kidding me?
No, I'm not. The whole C-suite has to go. And I think it's going to happen here. I think it's going to happen. Chief executive officer. That is an appropriation of American Indians. I'm all on board with this.
Where do we have it in American Indian history that they called themselves chief using the word chief?
Do you remember Aaron Purcell?
No.
He was the big at Pod Show. Big guy, really pretty, probably 280, 290, big guy. Dark skin, and he was PR or something like that. You don't remember him?
Well, maybe.
I remember
the
one
PR guys were in and out of their like.
Yeah. I remember one time saying, "Oh, yo, Chief, what's up?" And I didn't know he was American Indian, and he said, "I'm really offended by that." I'm like, "Sorry, okay, I'll never do it again."
I had the same experience once at a dinner party where I said, "Well, that's a gyp." And of course,
gypsy, yes.
One of the guys was a Romani or whatever.
And he was offended?
Themselves. Yeah.
Oh, God.
He says, "You can't use that word." I said, "What?" He says, it's derogatory toward gypsies.
Yeah.
And I said,
the correct answer would have been, "Okay, I'm sorry, fag." That's what you should have said.
Yeah, that's what I should have said, sure.
Well, I have a feeling this could get legs. The commander-in-chief. I mean, it's a great way to bring Trump into it. Is the commander-in-chief culturally appropriating American Indians?
Well, where's commander-in-chief? I get it. I
Chief
hope
executive,
not.
chief of staff,
chief marketing officer,
That's
chief
right.
executive officer.
That's right. The C-suite.
Chief COO, chief operating
Let us
officer.
help everyone now by coming up with an appropriate alternative. What can we use with the C besides John C. Dvorak?
We would come up with some of the C that's not lewd.
Yeah, right.
It doesn't have to be a C, although it would help business cards.
Chief Petty Officer.
It was a C because...
Yeah, they went up Chief Petty Officer.
Yeah, gotta go.
Yeah.
Chief.
How about cheap?
No,
How about just cheap?
Head.
How about just cheap?
How about head?
Head?
Yeah, head marketing officer, head executive officer. That was what's the same thing.
Yeah.
So you said chief to this guy just casually as kind of
hey, Chief. Yeah,
thing?
hey, Chief, how you doing? Yeah,
hey, Chief.
I'm offended
and
by that.
Did you know he was an American Indian?
No, I didn't. I do now.
Well, if you know that it was American Indian, it wouldn't even be more appropriate. You're complimenting him.
Well, he was offended. He's easily offended.
And he's a PR guy?
Yeah, he's on Facebook.
Holy mackerel, this guy. Wow. Okay. Well, let's see. Head. You don't like head. Okay. Let's go to the synonyms and see what we got. Because we have no other choice.
But I think chief, yeah, you do.
That is bad.
Yeah. Champion.
I don't think it'll happen here.
Cheese.
I'm betting money it won't happen, but
well,
I think it's one step too many.
Czar.
We already did. No, Czar's no good.
Yeah,
that's appropriating from the Russians.
How about just chef?
Chef.
Chef executive officer. Chef would be appropriate. We doesn't have to change too much.
Yeah, especially if you're black.
The commander and chef. I know. Well, maybe you have to work on it.
I got the synonyms here. Hold on a second.
Oh, okay.
Okay, we got lead. We got champion. How about champion? That's with a C.
Champ executive officer. Okay, yeah, champ. Yeah.
Champion.
Mm-hmm.
First, grand.
No.
Main, prime, principal, prime. I like prime.
Prime executive. Ooh, prime is good. Prime executive officer.
Yeah, prime executive officer. I think prime could work.
Prime is good. Prime is nice. You can use that in French, premier. You can use it in, I think that probably.
Yeah, you could. It would work everywhere. Cardinal, primary, central, ruling, star, superior, telling, consequential, controlling.
Superior executive officer has a nice ring to it. But I think prime, I think you've nailed it. I think you've nailed it with prime. Prime is it. Prime is it.
Yeah, prime.
Prime. Okay, we're done.
All right.
And Amazon Prime has to then rebrand.
I don't think they do.
No.
It makes it even better. All right. Well, I'm glad you brought that into the conversation. I have a little side note since it came up in the conversation, I think, a couple of times.
Mm-hmm.
And I know Horowitz talks about this. You know, there's a big grocery store chain in Europe and in Germany called Aldi.
Yeah, ALDI. Aldi. Sure, I do.
That was ALDE.
No, it's ALDI, and and their whole game is they have the stuff out in boxes. They don't actually put it on the shelves.
Yes, right. It's a kind of like cheap way. In fact, you have to give them their stuff in a certain kind of box so it fits into their system.
Yeah.
Okay, so
they basically take pallets of all the boxes, put them in areas in a big warehouse, and they call it a supermarket.
Yes, and they do quite well for themselves. Actually, according to the wiki, it's ALDI. Okay.
Jeez, you can take it from me, Broseph. I grew up there.
Yeah, I know, but we all make mistakes. And I made a mistake on the clip.
You fact checking
the title?
Yeah,
Can you spell it?
Yeah, you spelled it wrong, but I wouldn't have said it. I got you. That's not that's not the worst offense in your clip.
Anyway, it's got nothing to do with anything. Here's what it's got to do with the punchline to this story.
Today,
story?
Yeah.
There are actually two different Aldis, Aldi Nord and Aldi Sud, or North and South. In the 1960s, Theo and Carl Albrecht couldn't agree on whether or not they were going to allow their stores to sell cigarettes. So instead of compromising, they divided the company in half. Theo took the North, while Carl took the South. You can tell the difference by looking at the logo. North's logo is a basic blue and white. South's logo is orange and blue. It's the Southern Aldi that's a bit fancier. And when it came time to expand to the rest of the world, those countries were divided up too. Stores in areas like the UK, Ireland, and Australia are all Aldi Sud. While you're shopping at Aldi Nord, if you go into France or Poland, there's only one country where Aldi Nord and Aldi Sud share pieces of the grocery store pie, and that's in the US. You wouldn't know it though. And that's because Aldi Sud does business as Aldi. Aldi Nord goes by a different name, Trader Joe's.
Oh, yeah, I did know that. Yes.
You did?
Yeah, I knew that. I didn't know there was two, but I knew that they own Trader Joe's. Interesting. Yeah, well, Trader Joe's is a nicer version, I think, of Aldi. But yeah, it makes total sense. It is very much their format.
Well, there was an original Trader Joe's. They didn't start Trader Joe's. Trader Joe's was started in the 50s by this guy Joe, and
really? You don't say.
Yeah, his name was Joe, and by I think he sold to the Aldi Group, which was a holding company, at about 1979. So they've owned them for a long time. But I was never under the impression that this was a German company.
Yes, I knew that for sure. Yeah, but I knew somewhere about Trader Joe's, but I did not realize it was two different companies. And so apparently the North owns Trader Joe's, the Aldi Nord, if I remember correctly from the clip.
Well, one of the two.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't like it there.
What, Trader Joe's?
Nah, I don't like it. I hate it. There's one within walking distance, and I'd rather get in my car. I won't go there.
Trader Joe's, most of the stuff is prepackaged, which apparently Aldi specializes in too.
Yeah.
Which is a lot of Aldi branded.
Yeah.
I've never been to an Aldi store, so I don't know, but they talked about it. And Trader Joe's got a lot of branded food. That's Trader Joe's this, Trader Joe's that. And they have a spiel. They have a great millennials love it because they've got a story behind every product.
Yeah, every product. Yeah, this was grandmother's secret recipe.
Yeah, it's always a story, and stories sell to millennials. If you don't have a story,
you
can't sell to millennials.
And all the wine has pretty labels.
Well, the wine they bring in wine from all over the place. Generally speaking, you don't get any good wine there except stuff you can get anywhere. But the fruits and vegetables are what bother me because they have this like kind of crunchy style of everybody who goes there. They're all Trader Joe's. You go to Trader Joe's. The fruits and vegetables are terrible. They haven't got anything good. It's not fresh.
No, they don't. It's all prepackaged.
Good. It's just a bunch of apples are sold by the apple. It's just very disappointing. They have good cheese, and which now makes more sense that it's German owned. So the cheese selection is quite good.
Yes.
Anyway, I thought people didn't know that.
Yeah, well, Trader Joe, yes. Well, but, it would be that kind of stuff I catch because I still read the European news. Before we...
I was stunned by this.
Oh, I can tell.
I did a whole piece.
I have a tech request for a dude's name, Ben. Just because I wrote it down.
Okay.
I need an image conversion script or something. Because I keep trying to whittle down the automation of the process here, and one of the final things I got a lot of things really slick. I need to be able to take an image from the art generator, and what is the format that it comes out in? It's standard format.
It's 540 by 540, I think, something like that. And it's either
it's 520. No, it's 520, 520.
Oh, okay.
No, because I chop it down to 256. Shoot, I don't remember what it is. Anyway, you can download one and figure it out. So I need 3 versions, and I need them renamed, and I just want to be able to, maybe someone can bake it into the, all I want is just to be able to, here's the image, I want to drop this image somewhere, it has to come back in a 256 and a 3000 by 3000, and it has to be renamed, and they have to be JPEGs. And if you want to help, send me an email. I'd really appreciate it. It's one of the last
things. It would be cool
things.
if it was actually built into the
art generator. Yeah.
But Bonked does not have time for it.
No, it's okay. Here we go.
I'm going to show my support by donating to No Agenda. Imagine all the people who could do that. Oh, yeah, that'd be fab. Yeah, oh, No Agenda. In the morning.
All right, we have a few people to thank, and we'll thank them. Starting with Ronald Williams, $143. He says 101 plus 42. You're invaluable. Karma, please. Call out my boss, Bill, as a douchebag. Douchebag. He says he needs to be reminded to donate because he quotes your show at work all the time.
Like him, what does he say?
I don't know. He's probably said, well, he probably just takes some of our conclusions and uses them in conversation.
He probably said, you said, yeah, no.
I did?
No. That's what he's probably saying to his employees. You said, yeah, no.
We could do that, yeah. Or what's the other one? It's the fact of the matter.
Yeah. Oh. Yeah, that's when you're watching TV with people and the fact of the matter comes out and people look at you, you know you're part of the group.
Yes. We have a number of them that we use. They're triggers.
They're big triggers at this point. They also remind you about the show, which is really good, right?
Which is the idea, but it triggers me. I get triggered, right?
Okay. Right.
I want you to play
at the end of the day, right?
At the end of the day, the fact of the matter is.
Yeah. What do you want me to play?
I would like you to play, not this second, but before this show's over, that guy again.
The right guy?
The right guy.
Oh, the tech millennial.
Yeah. Right?
Yeah. Okay.
Okay, let's go on thanking people. Sir Christoph, the Cantankerous, 12345. Greg Dial, 9999. Ned Jeffrey, 8008. Boob. He's got a birthday call out for someone.
Yep.
Colin Hannawell in Vashon, Washington. Thanks for making other podcasts seem like canned corned beef hash.
Hold on. Let me just read what Ned said here. He said, thank you for the birthday shout out for my new human resource exactly 1 month ago. She had no name at the time, but she does now. Alira Aisling Jade Jeffrey. Nice. Alira.
Okay. I'm not sure what the connection to the show is.
No, but it doesn't matter. It's nice when you have a kid. We said congratulations on the show back then.
Oh.
And okay, she didn't have a name, and now she has a name.
She had no name at the time, but she does now.
Yeah. Well, he mentioned it in the note. I guess he wanted us to say it.
Okay, well, you did. I'm not complaining. I'm just wondering.
You're pausing. Move forward.
Yeah, because I'm looking at the structure of the sentences. Colin Hannawell in Vashon, Washington. We got him. He's boob. Raymond McGowan, 8008 in Morgan Hill, California. That's just down the street from us. Thanks for the sanity.
He wants a de-douching, which we have enough time to do.
You've been de-douched.
Another birthday from Laura Wilson in Sammamish, Washington. $75. A little ritzy community there. For my bro-in-law, Tim White from Lee's Summit, Missouri. We got him on the list. Christopher Dector, 5678. Famous number. Stephen Wolf in Kirkland, Washington, which is not the home of Costco, but they use that brand. They use the town's name for their brands. Joshua Brickner, 5510. James Buell in Spring Hill, Tennessee, 5341. Sir Chuck Walters, 5001. Happy birthday call out. He's got that on the list for his mom.
Yep.
And now we go to the $50 donations, name and location, all 50s. Robert Newby in Murfreesboro, Tennessee, does have a douchebag call out, calling out anyone in Murfreesboro that hasn't donated in the last 3 months as a douchebag.
Douchebag.
Our core of support for the show is getting soft. So pony up at least $50 for the value for value and get out and get our town ringing through the donation segments again. Yes, we haven't heard Murfreesboro for a while, and that would mean, I suspect, that they should have a meetup down there. We should go to it, 2 of us.
Okay.
Jay Stallings, parts unknown, $50. Very long note for some reason. Not sure what he's got in here. You can take a look at it and tell me if we should go back to it. Kathleen Leander, 50. Robert Dracosin, Oshkosh, Wisconsin. Dame Patricia Worthington in Miami, Florida. Brandon Savoy in Port Orchard, Washington. Titus Chow in Houston, Texas. John Haller in Missoula, Montana. Trevor Hoagland in Portland, Oregon. Brandy with an I, Kovash, $50. And she says, I'm going to note this kind of interesting. I have to expand it. Sorry. No.
Well, while you do that, I'll go back for a second to Titus Chow. He says, my sister-in-law is on her deathbed because of cancer. She has only a few days remaining, so we'll do an F cancer at the end of the segment.
Yes, please. Anyway, Brandy says, my brother turned me onto your show when I was suffering from an election stress disorder. I like that.
Wow. It
has saved me from the depths of fake news media. I now feel fully informed and smarter than most of my other 40-something mom friends when it comes to current events.
Yeah, next time you look, it'll be 20-something mom friends, and then it'll be 10-something mom friends. Yeah. Go easy.
I look forward to the Thursday and Sundays. Thank you both.
Go easy.
Sheila Demodarin. Sir Chris Slowinski. I think she's a dame.
Yeah.
Chris Slowinski in Sherwood Park, Alberta. And that concludes our very short list of donors, well-wishers, and producers for show 973. An unlucky number for us.
But we do thank those who came in with support for the show, and those under $50. A lot of people still find value in the subscriptions, and they're very good for us as well. So thank you all very much. Another show coming up on Thursday.
Dvorak.org/NA.
F cancer and jobs.
Jobs, and jobs. Let's vote for jobs.
You've got karma.
Just 4 names on the list today. Jennifer Roediger says happy birthday to her son Jack. He celebrates on the 16th. That'll be tomorrow. Ned Jeffrey, we talked about him. It is his birthday today. Laura Wilson says happy birthday to her brother-in-law Tim White in Lee's Summit, Missouri. His birthday was yesterday. And Sir Chuck Walters celebrates his mom's birthday today, Carolyn Walters. And we say happy birthday from everybody here at the best podcast in the universe. Then we've got no nights, no title changes, no nothing, no checks. No cash, no credit card, no money.
We have birthdays.
We got birthdays, and we did our birthdays. They have
we'll have a night for sure the next show because we have the one check that didn't get posted.
I went through the last update from Sheriff Lombardo of Clark County and pulled a number of clips.
Okay, I only have 2 clips for this whole thing.
Yeah, why don't you do your stuff? I mean, I like analyzing what he's doing because the words he's using are extremely interesting from a no agenda perspective.
Good. Well, let's play the rundown I have on CBS. This is the LV shootings. It's not all of the whole rundown, but it's the one the part of it I thought was important.
Lombardo also offered new insight into the changing timeline.
I still stand by the time of 21:59. Mr. Campos received his wounds in close proximity to 2205.
At 9:59 p.m., hotel security guard Jesus Campos went to investigate an alarm on the 32nd floor, but was likely not shot until closer to 10:05 p.m. That's when he used his radio and his cell phone to report that he'd been shot. Within seconds, Stephen Paddock then turned his gunfire to concertgoers below his windows and the aviation fuel tanks about 100 yards past the concert crowd. At 10:17 p.m., police arrived outside his room, 12 minutes after the shooting began. Campos has not shared his story with the media, but his union released these pictures of him getting an award for his bravery in the massacre.
New court documents show that during an FBI raid, agents did look for medications, explosives, guns, and concert tickets when they went to Paddock's Mesquite home.
Did they find
They're
any of
steal
that?
the concert tickets? What are they? What is that about?
I don't know. There are stories being built around this very carefully. And I think we can kind of hear that verbatim in the Lombardo stuff that I've got. But man, it's
well. Can I read from Greg W. who doesn't want some of the stuff read, but I can read it.
Yes, he's a producer. You mean?
Yeah, he's one of our producers.
Yeah.
Been a listener for a while. He says, first of all, the screw up in the timeline, and specifically the security guard story, boils down to a simple mistake by one of the officers interviewing the security guard on the scene, who wrote down the wrong time of the incident in his report.
Now, hold on. We should say that our producer gets this from his buddy who's in at Metro.
He's in the police department.
Yeah.
Yes, exactly. It was not reported anywhere, as far as I know, is that the security guard apparently was checking up on loud hammering noises. Right here is where we need the Lawrence O'Donnell clip.
Stop the hammering.
Stop the hammering.
Oh, man. Oh, wow. Damn. I only have this version.
Why don't I have sound? All right, it's back. What's going on? Why am I losing this? There's insanity in the control.
I need the ISO, though.
There's an insanity.
Someone's
yeah, you
pressing
do.
button.
Yeah,
Don't think that up. We got to put some ISOs up for it because the stop the hammering is just too precious to believe.
Yeah.
Anyway, loud hammering noises, not gunshots, coming from the suite Paddock was staying in. According to my source, Paddock was trying to reinforce an entrance door to the suite and one of the bedrooms inside the suite in order to barricade himself inside. And the security guard interrupted him, at which point he shot him and started executing the plan early before he could finish the main entrance door. And he knew there would be more security cops coming because he knew there were going to be more. There's still a lot of details missing, and there's still a lot of evidence being examined, like you mentioned several times already. It says, forensic science is not like you see on television. But what is known already is that the shooter was planning to cause a lot more damage, and the only reason he didn't was mainly just luck and the fact that he was probably just a rookie when it comes to guns and explosives, something his brother keeps claiming. Paddock made a small cutout in one of the windows and had the gun set up and aimed at the fuel or gas tanks that were right next to the concert. And his first shots, right after the security guy interrupted him, were at the tank with the goal of blowing it up and causing instant panic, and then shooting at people in the street closer to the hotel as they could be running away from the explosion. But the tanks never exploded, so he had to improvise. And this is from the police, by the way, as you've mentioned.
Yeah.
He had to improvise and started shooting at an area in the concert, but the process broke. The window, it apparently was just a hole in the window. Now he fucked it up. And he also moved it to the other window suite where he had a little better view of the crowd and started shooting from the window. But as he did, the gust of wind between the two bedrooms from blowing up second window caused the reinforced door he created, locking him in the room, and closed the door on him with the wind, which is a couple of – this is the way they analyzed it. With just a couple of guns and only a small portion of the ammo he had, because he got blocked out away from a bunch of the guns. Okay, so this is why he didn't use all the ammo and guns he had seen. Even it makes some sense. Anyway, he goes on. He says the reason for the delay in the police took so long to get him is you have to remember that at the time nobody knew how many active shooters there were, and because this is a typical tactic for police is to clear each floor of the hotel one by one until they get to the top instead of rushing straight to the 32nd floor. That would take some time. I would like to add a comment about security footage from the hotel, which apparently a lot of which is missing. Well, it is true there's tons of security cameras in those hotels. The primary focus is only on the casino itself, trying to catch cheaters. And the main entrances, upper floors, are secondary systems, and the hotels are not paying nowhere near as much
I would
attention.
believe that. I would believe that.
I believe it too.
Yeah.
I can tell from visiting these casinos, they're starting to degrade more and more.
I mean, for that kind of coverage, you want to go to Airbnb. I mean, you don't want to stay at a hotel.
I got it.
Yo.
Well, this doesn't really debunk. There was a story about Airbnb guy putting
John,
cameras.
The day that we start explaining each other's jokes, we really need to just stop the show.
Well, we got to explain the joke to people. These are like references that are ridiculous.
Come on, everybody knows.
Very obscure.
Everybody knows
Sorry
that
for
story.
the long note. He says, he finishes up. He says this information is valuable. Also, in the last note, I personally know one of the ER doctors at one of the hospitals close to the Strip working during the shooting, and he told me that at least 80 to 90% of the wounded people from that concert that he has seen were in fact gunshot wounds, in case anyone out there believes that the InfoWars was saying, and there's no evidence of any victims of gunshots. Thank you for the great service you provide.
Right. Okay. So that's good that you read that. I, of course, read that. I was like, wow, that's so long. I shouldn't read that. But it's actually good in context. And I think the next time he talks to his neighbor or buddy or whatever it is, he'll probably have some updates to the story. And this requires a little bit of context, the way Sheriff Lombardo does these updates to the press. Right to the side of him, and he's always on camera, although I don't think he realizes it, is a special agent in charge now. He's special agent in charge, SAIC, Aaron Roos from the FBI. And he also does a little statement, but it's kind of unimportant. But while the chief is reading what he calls the narrative, which is really what caught my ear, and I really started listening to what he's saying. He says, I need to read this narrative to you. Now, typically, in today's usage of the word, it's kind of it has more of a negative connotation. Narrative is something that is a general, like a conglomeration of talking points to explain something. But typically, you say, I have some facts for you. This is what I expect from law enforcement. I don't expect them to talk about, I have a narrative for you.
I do not expect law enforcement to be using the word narrative.
It's odd.
I would if there was some sort of police talk and we know what it sounds like.
I've
that
not
makes
heard
more
it.
sense.
Yeah, I've not heard it. And then while each time he really reads what he calls a narrative, and I think it's 2 or 3 times in these clips I have, then you see the special agent in charge bobbing his head. His body language is all about, that's exactly right. Yeah, he's always confirming. He's almost patronly. And that is because from everything I've heard, and it's kind of confirmed in these clips, the investigation is now under supervisory. It's an FBI investigation now. It's federal, but they're letting this guy give them, and I think he's telegraphing and doesn't even know it. The poor sheriff, he's just a dude. So let's start with his narrative about the death toll.
And a couple of these items I will read from the narrative.
From the narrative. It's even better than I thought. I will read this from the narrative. I guess that's the playbook, or I hate to sound conspiratorial, but it's odd.
Because I don't want my comments to be construed or changed.
That would be misconstrued, wouldn't it?
Yes.
I don't want my comments construed.
I like it. Just comments to be construed.
Please.
See if there's actually a definition for that. Go on.
Construed or changed. So I wanted to ensure the accuracy of that. But most of this conference will be done strictly through my narrative provided to you. Okay, first and foremost, I want to give you an update on the injuries. This has been a big deal on my mind, as it has been the public, and I think it's important for you to be given an accurate picture of what is occurring associated with the injuries of the 1 October event. There was no integrity question associated with that, as I've experienced through the cyberspace.
Now, this is another part of the problem I have. Again, and you'll hear it throughout these clips, defending himself and the relationship with the FBI, and that we're not covering up for each other. I mean, for them continuously to do this is also not standard.
Questioning my integrity. 58 is still the number of individuals that have died. Now, this is an important piece.
Important.
45 individuals are still hospitalized. Some of those are in critical condition. So 58 may raise. By the grace of God, it doesn't. And we shall continue to move forward. The medical profession will provide all the medical care necessary, but sometimes it's people meet their demise outside of our control.
Another very weird statement. The medical profession will take care of everything, but sometimes people meet their demise outside of our control. I know I'm really drilling down into it, but this guy is almost an open book for a linguist.
Okay, let me throw a little thing in here. I'm not sure what I'm going to say is accurate, but it's an interpretation possibility. Because and here's what I'm going to say, a lot of sheriffs are elected. They're not from law enforcement. They're elected officials.
Yes, correct.
They get voted on, and some of them are just boneheads that get voted in because everybody likes them.
Yeah.
So the guy could be just an idiot.
Could be. Who's being controlled? That's what it sounds like to me.
Well, he's being told what to do at this point because he doesn't know what to do. He's a guy that got voted to be sheriff.
Got it. Okay, that's a good point and good context.
Provide all the medical care necessary, but sometimes it's people meet their demise outside of our control. So I'm hoping that number does not raise, but today's number is 58.
He certainly has a high school education. No, hope that number doesn't raise. Raise the roof.
It won't raise, but it'll go up.
We're going to raise the roof, y'all. Okay. Now the fuel tanks. Another narrative.
The fuel tanks. I'm going to read this narrative so my words do not get changed.
I mean, come on.
But I want to provide you some information in reference to the fuel tanks. It is believed the fuel tanks were fired upon with intent. McCarran's leaders have safety protocols in place which they re-examine following any safety-related incident. The leaders have already contacted experts in fuel storage out of the abundance of caution. I am more than confident that they will immediately implement any changes or security augmentations if they are so advised. I have been advised there is a very low probability that aviation fuel could be ignited by gunfire, and the tanks are outfitted for continual release of vapors. So that is the situation of the fuel tanks. Any future information that needs to be provided, reference that, will be provided by the Public Information Office out of McCarran Airport.
So that's the narrative. He shot at the fuel tanks, which is an interesting twist. You know, if you want to create a narrative, or if you want to give a guy some pieces of the narrative to read. And this is kind of a toss away, but I threw it in anyway.
The dates of the 25th versus the 28th. This was not breaking news, no matter who believed it to be so in this form. We were aware of the discrepancy of the 28th versus the 25th in the early parts of this investigation. What we weren't aware of is why the date of the 28th was utilized in the early portion of this, as I was provided this information as part of the person registered in the suspect's room. We have come to learn the suspect did occupy the room on the 25th, and the situation on how the room was compensated or paid for had changed, and the name as part of the registration had changed on the 28th to include Mary Lou Danley. So that was the confusion associated with that. No matter what the perception is, whether we were being non-transparent or we were attempting to be subversive, is false. I was acting on the information at the time I was provided it.
Yeah, he's really very defensive about all this stuff. And
he's been blasted in the local media.
Yes, I understand. I'm not sure if the timeline fits. When did she go to Thailand? I thought, in my mind, this had happened a week before, or maybe even longer. So this means she left the day before, or 2 days before?
Not the timeline we got originally.
No. Now, this is a great piece. Again, something you never hear about when the shooter suicides himself. I've just never heard this before, and I thought it was fascinating. And I'm also curious, about these people's eyes.
The autopsy Yes, there has been an autopsy performed on Mr. Paddock, or the suspect.
Or the suspect, whoever, I don't know.
In the early evaluation, there was no abnormalities observed visually. As a matter of practice in the forensic science, his brain has been shipped to an appropriate evaluation facility in order to take a microscopic evaluation of the brain. So the initial report that there was no abnormalities was a visual inspection of his brain. So it's yet to be known whether there is any abnormalities to be presented at a later date.
Besides that he blew his brains out of his skull as part of the narrative, what are they looking for, John? Abnormalities in the brain.
Oh, I can tell you.
Oh, please, enlighten me. Amongst the debris.
They were looking for signs of that football player's disease, PT, whatever the hell it is, where you're
PTSD. No, you mean
no, it's not PTSD.
No, skull trauma, or yeah.
You get a brain trauma from playing football, and there's a certain disease that I don't have. The chat room should come up with it immediately.
Traumatic brain injury.
Yeah, but it's got another more
CTE.
Name. That's it. CTE.
Boom.
Whatever it is.
2 on the boom.
Anyway, they were looking for CTE so they could, because they don't have a motive for this guy. And they said, well, God, maybe he was a football player and he's got CTE and that's why he did it.
Could they be looking for anything else? Enlarged amygdala or any other?
No, they were looking for CTE. I've got that.
Really?
There was another report and they were very specific about it.
Wow, that's an interesting. But I think that he did have traumatic brain injury or CTE. Because his brains were on the carpet.
Yeah, well, that's very traumatic.
It's a very traumatic thing to experience.
Yeah, which is the baffling part, because why would you...
Hey, John, Dr. John.
I don't know if you can find CT if your brains have been blown out.
Hey, Dr. Dvorak, I'm looking at this here brain. What do you think?
Looks like he's got CTE.
Looks like I'm missing a piece of it. That's odd. Where could the rest of the brain be? Wow. Again, the conspiracy issue, very, very troubling to our sheriff.
22:17, 12 minutes. That is when our officers first arrived on the 32nd floor. 12 minutes. You are very well aware the suspect fired at approximately 10 minutes. Upon our arrival on the 32nd floor, the firing had ceased. We did not believe we had continually had an active shooter. At that point, we conducted evacuations of the rooms adjacent to the suspect's room, and you know the rest. So there is no conspiracy between the FBI, between LVMPD, and the MGM. Nobody is attempting to hide anything. Reference this investigation. The dynamics and the size of this investigation requires us to go through voluminous amounts of information in order to draw an accurate picture. My intent, like I stated earlier, is to give you information as I know it, unverified, to calm the public, not to establish a legal case.
Got it.
Everybody understand that?
Yeah.
No questions, sir.
Yes.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Did you hear that? At the end, everyone understand that?
The public, not to establish a legal case. Everybody understand that? No questions, sir.
No questions. No questions. All right, both shut up. All right, we're almost done.
Okay, but before you go on, I will mention that he is elected.
Yep.
He's kind of a cop, I guess, who got elected to be sheriff, or they don't really have any background on the wiki page. He just got elected as sheriff, and during an election, and just to make it even more funny, if you want to call this funny, he's a Republican.
Oh, yes.
So he's like a dumb Republican.
Groovy. Well, no wonder they put him front and center. That's great. And he just reads the narrative. That's very good. Let's do one more narrative. This is new, and I'm surprised we didn't hear it from our producer's neighbor.
So before we close out today, I want to provide you another written narrative. I want to read verbatim.
Yeah, please do, so your words don't get misconstrued or construed.
In other words, bring a better light to what's occurred.
In other words, listen up.
And the carnage that is associated with our community. There's some bright spots. And I don't want anybody to take offense when I've completed my comments today. There's 1,000 heroes out there, but I'm going to bring it home to my department, and I think it's important for you to hear it.
Okay.
So the first narrative, in the immediate aftermath of the shooting, Sergeant Garrett Everett arrived at Reno and Haven and saw the need for medical triage area. For hours, Sergeant Everett and other LVMPD officers, along with the off-duty nurses, paramedics, and firefighters, triaged at least 50 gunshot victims. They ran out of tourniquets and began using anything they could find to stop the bleeding, to include their own hobble devices they used during normal course of their duties. These officers calmly took care of the wounded and the dying as they waited for medical transport, at times placing the critical victims on the backs of trucks so they could get them to the hospital quickly. Not all the victims made it out as the night wore on. Those same officers were assigned to guard the deceased victims, not allowing any of them to be left alone.
He started shooting at them?
I don't know if this guy could hit anything from that distance from the sounds of it.
You know, it's so. Well, here it is. This is the one that
I mean, if you're using that little device, that shoulder thing that makes the thing, it's just going to scatter shots. It's
you know what I also found out about semi-automatic as well as, well, certainly if you use a bump stock or if you use a full automatic like an M16, there's something called cooking off. Have you ever heard of this? And this may have happened to the shooter, the suspect, the guy whose brain was on the carpet. If you shoot 20, 30 rounds, the way these things function is that unless the magazine's empty, a new round comes into the chamber, and it's so hot that if you just put it on the ground and fill up, put a new mag in, it can start shooting by itself. It'll shoot, and then it could shoot up to 2-3 rounds just by itself without pulling the trigger because it's just so hot the shell goes off.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
We saw the videos of these guys using this bump stock, and the thing to rifles looks like it's on fire.
Yeah, but maybe
they usually shoot out. They usually shoot out the whole magazine.
It may be. I'm just saying. I have a video in the show notes. Kind of fun to look at. Now this is what I like the best is the last clip, where he's telling the press now what they need to write about. So not only is he giving them the narrative, the written narrative, he's telling them what to write about.
Typical Republican.
Key individuals I want you to write about. And one of them is Brady Cook. Brady sustained 4 separate gunshot wounds. And when I say separate, that's entries and exits. It's not actually 4 separate bullets. And an important piece on Brady is the suspect was firing upon the crowd. As our officers started to arrive via vehicles, which Brady was occupying one, it is readily apparent to me that he adjusted his fire and directed it toward the police vehicles. So the response of those...
And he does say properly, it is readily apparent to me, but he's presenting this as something you need to write about.
Brady is, the suspect was firing upon the crowd. As our officers started to arrive via vehicles, which Brady was occupying one, it is readily apparent to me that he adjusted his fire and directed it toward the police vehicles. So the response of those individuals, I believe, saved lives. No matter what his personal vendetta is against the police or not, maybe he was preventing the wolf from getting to his door sooner than later, but he chose to fire upon the police vehicles. Brady sustained a substantial wound to his shoulder, through his bicep, into his chest, and out his back.
Well, we should certainly have some body-worn camera images of the cops being shot at. And that's pushing something new in. He hated cops.
Yeah.
I think
reason to be. I mean, there's why?
Yeah.
Again.
Well, they've got to build something, and I think I have a much better idea. We've kind of discussed it. And it would really only take one company it would get rid of a problem for them anyway. Pfizer could just say, you know what, we'll take it under consideration. If you just say the guy was taking Chantix to quit smoking, we would be done with the whole thing. Oh, well, of course, the press could do story after story of people who've gone nuts.
That's never going to happen. And let's go back to the Chantix thing. The guy looked to me like a smoker. And I'm not going to say you can just look at somebody and say they look like a smoker, but you see pictures of this guy.
Yeah, he looks like a smoker.
He looks like a smoker.
Looks like a smoker, Mr. Smoker.
Which means it's possible that he took Chantix, and this is the thing they're repressing. They want to
all of this to save Pfizer. It's possible.
Think about it.
It's possible. But yeah, the Chantix. I mean, people have they wake up in different cities. They one guy didn't he go kill his neighbor, shot him through the door. Interesting. There's a story for you, mainstream media. M5M.
Yeah,
there's tons of great stories. I mean,
yeah, there are tons of great stories about the crazy results of using Chantix.
I mean,
we spent a whole, couple shows on the topic about 3 or 4 years ago.
Yeah.
And we still bring it up when you have a mass shooting or anything like that, you want to look into the pharmaceuticals the guy's been taking, including, wherever the event took place, and they never do.
Here's WAPO.
Except in this case, they got the Valium.
Well, here's
Valium.
Here's WAPO. August 9th last year, the smoking cessation drug Chantix has now played a crucial role in a second violent crime. On Monday, a Maryland man was found not criminally responsible for shooting his wife in the neck in their home in 2014 because he was found to be suffering from involuntary intoxication due to Chantix.
Yeah.
Involuntary intoxication. It could explain everything, and it'd be done. The cover-up would be done. Yes. Whatever they're covering up or not.
Maybe they're covering up Chantix.
I can't believe that.
I do. I can believe it. There's billions of dollars involved with these pharmaceutical companies. And the liabilities? Yeah. Holy mackerel. If that was the case, every one of those guys who's dead would have wrongful death suit. Everybody who was injured would have a suit. This would be a nightmare.
Let me take a look what the fourth quarter 2006. Let me see what Chantix does in revenues. This stuff is pretty easy to look up. No, they don't have any numbers. That's too bad. Someone in the chat room maybe can find that. But I'll bet you it's not that big. It can't be the biggest one.
I'm not going to argue that. The point is that the company that produces it has deep pockets.
Yeah, they
can't afford to get sued out of existence.
Right. Yes, I agree with that. But still, it just seems like, maybe, I don't know. They're really doing this. It's hard for me to believe that they're doing this to cover up Chantix. I mean,
I would like to ask his girlfriend if he's a smoker and if he's been trying to quit.
Yeah.
Nobody ever does any of this.
No. All right, I'll get on the plane to the Philippines.
No, she's still here.
No, she's in Vegas. Yeah. Probably.
Yeah. Yeah, of course, she's surrounded by FBI guys. You're not going to be able to go and ask her anything,
right? And we still can't. We still can't talk to the Campo guy. He's being guarded. You can't get to him. You can't interview him. Yeah, he was supposed to show up for 5 network interviews and cancel at the last minute on all of them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's pretty fishy.
Yeah. No, the fishy one for me, the fishiest thing this week is the Associated Press, who come up with this and say, oh, yeah, this is it. Yeah, that's it. Yeah, that makes me sick. Claiming this is a recording of the sound that made our U.S. diplomats ill in the Cuban embassy and living quarters around their private living quarters.
What you just played?
Yeah.
You should play it through the whole show.
Now, I want to tell you that I'm just looking at the chat room, and people said it really hurt them. Wow.
I think they're just giving
tripping
you
out.
Crap.
Let's try it again. Donate to No Agenda. We'll see if it works.
Pretty good speakers. I'm not getting anything that seems bad.
I'll see if that worked.
Huge donations next show.
or everyone's dead. Yeah. We need to have a rolling transcript of the chat room along with the show sometimes. That's funny. All right, you guys. Sorry, didn't mean to kill you. All right. They're all MK Ultra triggered, apparently.
So I've got we're off the topic, I hope.
Yes. Yes, way off of it.
There's an ad it was an ESPN ad for football or something. I just found the copy and I didn't have the whole thing. This is the ad with the bad info. The copy that whoever wrote this ad and it was overproduced, so it had to have somebody that came along and said, hey, what are you doing here? This is not what this is. Play this ad.
You feel that? Feel the ground moving beneath your feet? It's because the ground is moving beneath your feet. You're in a real earthquake, one that registers 2 miles away on the Richter scale. The administration tried to stop it once. They were worried it would break the stadium.
What about the Richter scale?
It's apparently a distance scale now.
200 miles beneath the Richter scale?
No, 2 miles away on the Richter scale.
Oh, God. And what was this for? What product?
It was for a football game because in certain stadiums, people jump up and down, and it's like being in an earthquake.
Well,
2 miles away on the Richter scale is like...
That's a head shaker.
How does that make any sense under any deconstruction?
I like it a lot. That's great. But it's guys who watch football. Oh, yeah. 2 mile on the Richter scale, everybody.
The Algo. The Algo. The Algo.
Yeah, here's my Algo story of the week. You may have caught what happened. I thought it was fun. One of our producers did a lot of work to get this off of his DVR, and it's a little overmodulated as a result, but I don't think it's his fault. A discussion on CNBC about Dow Jones Newswire, who put out a fake news story, an actual fake news story, that Google was buying Apple, and they were, I think, getting 9 Apple shares, or for 1 Google share. This is dude's name Ben. They put in test data. I think there's some stock which is like XYZ, and it actually trades, but it's a test stock. So you can't really buy anything, but you can. It looks as if it's trading because that's the data is coming through. And this created a little problem with the algos.
That was followed up with more wires that read, Google says yay. Google gets 9 Apple shares for each Google share.
Expected to close tomorrow.
Yeah. Google will take over Apple's headquarters. Dow Jones apologized, saying that the wires were sent out in a technical error. That doesn't make sense, though, does it? Unless somebody was practicing. Somebody was practicing with something on the newsfeed, so they came up with the most ridiculous. I mean, having worked at Dow Jones and seeing how the sausage gets made sometimes, when you're playing with some of these prototypes, you come up with ridiculous headlines thinking it will never happen.
We used to do things like this, like Microsoft takes over the world, or like in the old days when we were trying to put web stuff together. But I don't know how this.
The same thing when we started WSJ.com. You're playing around with some of these things, assuming that no one will ever see them, and occasionally you get a little goofy.
Microsoft wouldn't, but I would believe if I saw Amazon takes over the world.
If Amazon takes, if that was the headline,
would you know that that's not true?
When the deal was going to close tomorrow, then what?
I would still want to check to see whether it was true or not.
Google says yay. That headline might give it away.
Google says yay.
There's AI that now, apparently I was talking to a trader, there's AI that listens to our show. They take it and people try to trade off of it.
Alexa, stop doing that.
So just watch yourself.
Scary because
Amazon takes over the world.
Makes me think they're doing
the opposite tomorrow.
The opposite of what we're recommending. That's what I'm worried about. Yeah, that might be a good idea.
Yeah. I like this story because it proves once again how AI and machine learning is such a big bag of crap. Because here are a couple of people, and by the way, the algos did kick in, and they traded Apple stock up $2 for about 10 minutes, and $2 in the Apple stock, that's like, whoa, hey, what's going on over there? That was a big jump, and it went back down once everyone figured out it was a fake story. But these people are great algos by themselves. They look at that headline, they see the nuance of, Google says yay, well, that's got to be bull crap. Your brain is so incredibly good. It's got all this knowledge, all these things stored away, and then somehow the arrogant Silicon Valley has made the sheeple believe that they can do all this groovy stuff with algorithms when you can't. The algos are dumb. They respond to math, and just not everything is mathematical. It's just stupid.
Glad you got that off your chest.
Yeah, well, the algos are my thing, and everyone's talking about the algos. You should see the hype of AI companies. Oh, my goodness.
Yeah.
It's just dumb.
To make a list of them.
Okay.
And track them, and then we'll take a look at the list and see which ones will be the perfect shorts.
Well, that's an easy list. All of them. They're all perfect shorts.
But I don't even know which stocks you're talking about.
Oh, no, there's 6. I think there's 6 of them that are, and they get one little piece of news like, we've completed, almost like pharmaceutical, like biotech, Yeah, we've completed our trial with our augmented reality machine learning hoopity-poop Goldberg machine, and wow, we're good. Boom! Stock rockets. That's great. Oh, yes.
Yeah, they're all doomed.
Yeah, totally. It's not going to happen. I'm very bearish on AI.
Yeah, I think we've got that impression.
Mm-hmm. Well, it's Tech News Sunday,
So we do have the Boy Scout story. Might as well play that.
Yeah, I read that in the newsletter.
The Boy Scouts have announced they plan to accept girls into the program beginning next year. This comes after the Boy Scouts first ended its ban on openly gay Boy Scouts and then transgender scouts.
So it's eventually going to be the Boy and Girl Scouts. They're going to merge at some point. They have to, because we can't have these separate things anymore. It's like the Boys and Girls Club. For years, I was going, who the hell's the Boys and Girls Club? I realized it's the Boys Club, which when I was a kid, it was called the Boys Club. And it was, after school activity things, a center for boys so they could burn off steam. And then the girls bitched about it. And the next thing you know, it's the Boys and Girls Club.
Right.
And that's what's going to happen here. But the more interesting thing was what happened in the New York Times. They ran a story about how beneficial it would be to boys to join the Girl Scouts. Which I was just looking at that going, oh, there you go. There's our demasculization of the male species in the United States, the deballing of the American man. And
it's not just contained to the United States. Now, did Tillerson quit the Boy Scouts? Because I'm surprised Amy didn't mention that in her story. Trump being a moron and all.
Oh, yeah, I'm surprised too.
Yeah, didn't he? Did he quit?
I don't know. I mean, he's not still a Boy Scout, if that's what you're
he was
wondering.
The president of the Boy Scouts of America.
I don't think he's. I thought he retired from that years ago. Maybe he's an emeritus or something. He's on the board. I don't know. We could look it up.
Nah, screw it.
No, we don't care.
I really don't. All right.
I think that's good. I'm good. I got other stuff, but
do one more. You got to do one more fun thing just to get us out.
Well, the one fun thing is kind of there's earthquakes in Holland. But I'm going to skip that.
Okay.
Let's listen to General Kelly. They got along. He apparently went in front of the audience and said, "Look, I'm not quitting this bull crap."
Yeah, he went in front of the White House press corps. He did about 20 minutes.
He said he wasn't going to quit. He was bull crap, and then he gave a long spiel about what he's supposed to do and not do. And one of the things he says, Trump's tweets, what am I supposed to do about it?
As far as the tweets go, I read in the paper, you all know, you write it, that, I've been a failure at controlling the president or a failure at controlling his tweeting and all that. I was not sent in or I was not brought to this job to control anything but the flow of information to our president so that he can make the best decisions. I have found that Mr. Trump, from the day I met him, he's a decisive guy. He's a very thoughtful man, I should say. He takes information in from every avenue he can receive it. I restrict no one, by the way, from going in to see him. But when we go in to see him now, rather than onesies and twosies, we go in and help him collectively understand what he needs to understand to make these vital decisions. So again, I was not sent into or brought in to control him, and you should not measure my effectiveness as a chief of staff by what you think I should be doing, but simply the fact is I can guarantee to you that he is now presented with options, well thought out options. Those options are discussed in detail with his team, and then he comes up with the right decision.
I kind of get this visual of, Kelly with a bowl of ice cream. Come on now, I want your attention. Hold on a second. Hold on, let's do this. We know he's kinetic. He's kinetic.
It's all the military intelligence who working him to make sure he does the right thing so we can get this wars going.
Yeah, I don't think they care about the tweets either. I mean, I don't. I don't think it's important. People take it.
I don't either. I mean, I follow him, but he tweets at some weird hour, so I never see his tweets.
No, I only see
always buried in the stream somewhere.
Yeah, but it's like people tweet about their food or whatever, and he tweets about bullcrap that he's interested in.
Which reminds me,
which is crazy, but I find it entertaining.
This came up in the conversation with the millennials and Mimi and everyone.
Uh-huh.
She says, and it was backed up by everyone, that people are so upset. These face baggers are like so upset about the way the world is going because of Trump that they stopped taking pictures of their food.
What? Was this a? And
everyone agreed. Oh
protest?
Yeah, there's a lot less pictures of food on Facebook than there used to be.
Did you know that Friday apparently was Women Don't Go on Twitter Day?
No, I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Was it some Harvey Weinstein initiative?
Let me see. Don't go. I think it was Twitter. Maybe it was all social networks. Tina was reading it to me like, did you know? No.
Very poorly done.
Let me see. This Friday. No, that's not it. No, I don't see anything now. No, I thought it was a big deal. Does anyone know about this?
Apparently only you.
Hello? Does anyone know about this? Well,
no.
Right. No, okay. Anyway, the solution, by the way, to the Boy Scouts and Girl Scouts is just call it the Scouts and be done with it. And then you can always have boys and girls internally. If they want to mix and match or whatever, that's fine.
There are two organizations, and I don't know how they can get them to merge. I mean, you have to. They're going to have to.
It's old fashioned. So they can just get together. It'll be fine. As promised and as requested, last clip is of the tech millennial explaining fake news. Right?
During breaking news, the likes of which we've been the fake post circulating Vegas shooting, misidentified. Question is, how does that happen? How do stories like that? How do they rise to the surface?
Oh, shut up.
What are the fake news, as I said, about victims?
They were incorrect, and there were two cases that I think are kind of worth highlighting in this context. So, in one case, we had Google, right? People going to Google and searching for information about possible sort of identities of the shooter, and there was one name that had sort of emerged early on that people had sort of believed might have been responsible, and so they were going to Google, they were searching for this name, and instead of coming up with a link to CBC or CNN or NBC or some sort of reputable news site, they were being sent to essentially a sort of dark forum of the internet, right, where hoaxes and misinformation is often spread, a place called 4chan, where people were discussing the identity of one of the believed sort of one of the names of someone who later proved to not be the shooter, and that was one example there. And then on Facebook, Facebook has a feature called Safety Check, right? People go to Safety Check, and often in times of disasters and other sorts of events, and alongside Safety Check, they show news stories, right? News stories that are supposed to provide context about what's happening. And in this case, Facebook was also pulling in misinformation, pulling in sort of hyper-partisan news stories, pulling in far-right sort of news sources, also things that were misidentifying victims and the shooter and things like that.
So this was coming from trolls, either propaganda reasons, either pulling pranks, whatever. Their false information was popping up right at the top of these screens, Facebook and Google.
I think there was another clip that had him with more right, so we'll have to play
you're going to have to dig it up and ISO it.
Yeah, it's better the other one, where he throws in the middle of a sentence. Right, wrong, right. Yeah, exactly.
Good enough.
You get the idea. All right. Thanks to, let's see, Leo LaPuke. Thanks to Brian Longenecker and UKPMX for the end of show mixes that we'll be playing today for your entertainment pleasure. And is there a game I need to watch? Who's playing some World Series?
No, they're in the divisional playoffs right now, so you're going to have to wait. for these games to be over.
Oh, okay.
But I would say, I think all these baseball games right now, the two series that are out there they're very entertaining. I would watch them.
Okay. Thanks. I know less than I did a second ago.
Yeah, you don't know anything. Never mind. Forget it.
Coming to you from downtown Austin, Texas, here in the Common Law condo in the 5x9 Cludio, in the capital of the Drone Star States. In the morning, everybody. My name's Adam Curry.
And from northern Silicon Valley, where it's actually very nice out. There's no signs of this forest fires, which are forest and urban fires, which are still going on. I don't know how long this is going to last, but hopefully it'll be over soon. I'm John C. Dvorak.
We return on Thursday right here on No Agenda. Until then, as always, adios, mofos. I'm full of worms, man. Full of worms, man.
Oh, wow. Well, you did live in Africa.
I'm full of worms, man. I'm going to hurl, man.
Get some worm. Go to the veterinarian.
I'm full of worms, man.
God, it's disgusting.
I'm gonna hurl, man. I'm full of worms, man. You don't like it. No Agenda Show now with more worms, man. I'm full of worms, man.
Go to your doctor and say, hey, I got worms. And after the doctor stops laughing, he'll give you something and you'll poop them out.
Worms just twitching in my head. I'm thoroughly grossed out.
Wait a minute. Yes, I hate it. Where does it come from?
You called me out on it once and one time only, and I have never said it since.
When did it start?
It originates in pickup basketball as a phrase used by young urban players when admitting to an error. It's now widely used to mean something like, I admit that I have made a mistake.
My bad.
Cultural appropriation is your answer.
That's what it is.
Good.
Street argot.
Yeah.
Picked up by Whitey.
You can call people out when they say that.
I'm going to do that.
You say that, that's cultural appropriation from urban pickup basketball. So, you really should be ashamed of yourself. My bad.
It's a glib way of saying, I made a mistake, so what? My bad.
Why don't I have sound? All right, it's back. What's going on? Why am I losing this? There's insanity in the control room tonight. Someone's pressing buttons. Someone in that control room is out of control. Where's the hammer? Stop the hammering. Stop the hammering. Someone's pressing buttons. Stop the hammering. Stop the hammering out there. Where's the hammer? Stop the hammering. Stop the hammering. Someone's pressing buttons. Stop the hammering. Stop the hammering out there. Where's the hammer? Someone's pressing buttons, turning my sound on. Why don't I have sound? All right, it's back. Where's the hammer? Stop the hammering. Stop the hammering. Someone's pressing buttons. Stop hammering. Stop the hammering out there. Where's the hammer? Stop the hammering. Stop the hammering. Someone's pressing buttons. Stop the hammering. Stop the hammering out there. Where's the hammer? Why don't I have sound? All right, it's back. What's going on? Why am I losing this? There's insanity in the control room. Someone's pressing buttons. Someone in that control room is out of control. Stop the hammering out there.
The best podcast in the universe.
Adios, mofo.
Dvorak.org/NA